Hearing Lord Wu's words, the experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom were all jolted awake. Indeed, the other party could easily kill a rank 2 true saint and even slash His Highness the Gold King from hundreds of meters above the ground. Such terrifying combat strength was not something an ordinary rank 1 true saint could compare to. Let's attack together. With so many of us attacking together, he must die. Kill him. The experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom reached an agreement. In the next moment, dozens of figures moved at the same time. There were 32 people who attacked at the same time. All 32 of them were true saint experts. As for the false saints, they did not attack. After all, their strength had reached Jian Wushuang's level. An ordinary false saint could not interfere at all. Moreover, a false saint did not have an immortal body. If they really rushed forward, they would be courting death. But even without these false saints, the 32 true saints alone were already very terrifying. Among the 32 true saints, there were 3 rank 3 true saints, including Gold Mountain Realm Master, River True Master, and Lord Wu. There were 8 rank 2 true saints. Together with Gold King, an expert close to the peak of rank 3 true saint, this lineup was enough to scare people to death. But at this moment all of them attacked and all of them were aimed at Jian Wushuang. They all attacked? Jian Wushuang stood in the void, and the 30,000-meter-tall Golden Emperor Phantom behind him also looked down at everything in the world with a rich golden light in its eyes. Humph, you want to kill me? I want to see who will kill who. Jian Wushuang snorted coldly and moved instantly. The moment he moved, a large amount of the power of space-time rules swept up, and Jian Wushuang's figure reached its peak in an instant. He is very fast, and his movement is very strange. Everyone, be careful, Gold King warned in a low voice. He had fought with Jian Wushuang before, and he had personally experienced Jian Wushuang's speed. Naturally, he knew how amazing Jian Wushuang's speed and his movement were. However, although he had reminded them that Jian Wushuang was fast enough, and that the experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom were on their guard, they were still shocked when Jian Wushuang's speed and movement technique burst out. Swish, 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 swish. One after another, silver light flashed in the void. The speed of the silver light was so fast that the true saints could barely see a silver shadow, but they could not see where Jian Wushuang was. His speed! How can he be so fast? Where is he? Where is he? The experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom immediately exclaimed. Gold King's pupils constricted. His speed is even faster than when he fought with me? Gold King did not know that Jian Wushuang had been holding back his strength during the fight, not only in terms of divine power and power but also in terms of speed and movement skills. However, even though he had held back, his speed was still much faster than Gold King's. And now, his speed and movement skills were completely revealed. Whoosh! Silver light flashed and appeared in front of a rank 2 true saint in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom without any warning. The rank 2 true saint had just raised his head when he saw an ice-cold and gorgeous sword shadow suddenly lighting up. Space-time swordsmanship. Star Dream. Chi. The sword shadow directly passed through the neck of the rank 2 true saint and then flew out from the other end. No! The rank 2 true saint let out a shrill cry. He felt that his divine body had collapsed, and his divine power was being crazily eroded by a terrifying power, which was the God-burning poison. Under the erosion of the God-burning poison, his divine power had no room to resist at all. In a moment it was completely eroded, and he died on the spot. But that was not what was truly terrifying. After Jian Wushuang's star dream move swept past the neck of the rank 2 true saint, the power of the sword shadow did not weaken. Instead, it continued to fly toward the other 2 rank 1 true saints. Chi! Chi! The same scene happened. The 2 rank 1 true saints died on the spot. They did not even have time to scream. Swish! Jian Wushuang's figure flashed and disappeared again. With a flash of silver light, he appeared on the other side. Swish! 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 The sound of swords entering one's body rang out one after another. The silver light flashed in the void, and sword shadows crisscrossed among the heavy experts. The experts of the magic note divine kingdom were like fools. They stood there in a daze as if they were at the mercy of their opponents. In fact, it was not because they were stupid, but because Jian Wushuang was too fast and his movements were too strange. They had no idea where he was. Naturally, they could only be swept by the sword shadows one by one. Oh no! Retreat, retreat quickly! Lord Wu had already reacted in time and shouted at the first moment. The experts of the magic note divine kingdom reacted quickly. The moment they heard Lord Wu's shout, they immediately retreated at their fastest speed. In just an instant, these experts had already left the battlefield and returned to the place where they had previously watched the battle. However, when they returned here, they discovered that there had originally been a total of 32 true saints. Including Gold King, there had been a total of 33 true saints who had charged out at the same time. However, in just an instant, the entire process had taken less than 2 breaths. Now, there were only 16 of them. Yes, 16. Half of them were gone. And that half of them had been killed by Jian Wushuang in that instant. How could this be? Monster, he's a monster. It's too terrifying. His speed is too terrifying. We couldn't react in time. In just an instant, in just a single exchange, we didn't even have time to react. He actually slaughtered all 16 of us true saints? If it wasn't for Lord Wu telling us to retreat in time, wouldn't all of us have been slaughtered by him? The surviving true saints, including the many false saints who had been watching the battle, felt their minds go blank. It was as if they had been struck by lightning. There was nothing they could do. The scene just now was too terrifying. The true saints who were lucky enough to survive had also made a trip to the gates of hell. They could not believe that, if they had been a little slower, they would also have been killed by Jian Wushuang's sword. At the front of the experts, Gold King and Lord Wu stood side by side, their faces gloomy to the bottom, gathering 33 true saint experts to surround and kill one person, only to be instantly slaughtered by the other party. No one could accept such an outcome. The world had fallen into a dead silence. The experts of the magic note divine kingdom were still standing in front of Jian Wushuang, staring at him. Their eyes were filled with anger and fear. They had been shocked by Jian Wushuang's strength. At the same time, they also understood why Jian Wushuang took the initiative to expose himself and why he dared to stand there and wait for them to come. Obviously, it was because Jian Wushuang had absolute confidence in his strength. He was so confident that he could fight against or even slaughter all of them by himself. Now, there were still dozens of experts standing in front of Jian Wushuang, including experts close to the peak of stage 3 like Gold King. However, with so many experts standing together, they still could not do anything to Jian Wushuang. They were even under great pressure, afraid that Jian Wushuang would take the initiative to kill them. What should we do? Lord Wu was carefully thinking about countermeasures. But any countermeasures were useless in the face of absolute strength. Jian Wushuang's strength was there, so it was useless for them to kill him together. Your Highness Gold King, if you and Silver King join hands, can you kill him? Lord Wu could not help asking. Gold King and Silver King of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom were equally strong and had fought together many times. Once they joined hands, an ordinary true saint at the peak of rank 3 would have to retreat. This time, only Gold King came to kill Jian Wushuang. As for Silver King, he did not show up. After hearing Lord Wu's question, Gold King shook his head slightly. No, this man's strength is comparable to a peak rank 3 true saint, and he is good at speed and movement. Even if Silver King joined hands with me, he could barely suppress him, but it's impossible to kill him or suppress him. His soul defense is also very strong. I just used my soul attack, but it didn't affect him much. It's impossible to kill him directly with my soul. An old voice said. It was Soul Master, who was the best at soul attacks among the experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. Soul Master was also a rank 2 true saint, so his soul attack could have a great effect on ordinary rank 2 true saints. Unfortunately, although Jian Wushuang was only a rank 1 true saint, his soul was extremely tough. Most importantly, he had the protection of the exquisite pagoda, so his soul attack could not even shake the exquisite pagoda. Naturally, it had no effect on Jian Wushuang's soul. There's nothing we can do. Unless the king comes personally, No one in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom can do anything to him, Gold King said in a low voice. Lord Wu and the surrounding experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom looked at each other in dismay and secretly gritted their teeth. Although they did not want to admit it, it was the truth. A group of rank 1, rank 2, and even rank 3 true saints could do nothing to the rank 1 true saint in front of them. In the void, Jian Wushuang was still standing there coldly and arrogantly. He held the Blood Mountain sword in one hand and stared at the experts from the Magic Note Divine Kingdom with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. He was indeed disappointed. He had thought that, with so many true saint experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom working together, they would be able to give him some pressure. However, that was not the case. He still had not fully displayed his strength and had only revealed a part of it. However, with his speed and agility, the Star Dream move and the God-burning poison, he could easily slaughter the experts in front of him. So many people had been searching for me and had even sealed off this territory. Now that I have taken the initiative to appear in front of you, you only have this much ability. I'm very disappointed. Jian Wushuang sighed. Forget it. I've already achieved my true purpose in this mission. I'm too lazy to bother you anymore. After saying that, Jian Wushuang put away his Blood Mountain sword and turned to leave. But at this moment, buzz! A black cloud suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The black cloud contained a large amount of black divine power. The black divine power gathered crazily, and in the blink of an eye, it slowly condensed into a human figure. It was a middle-aged man in a black robe. His face was thin, but he was extremely tall and strong. The middle-aged man had a profound look in his eyes. His eyes were as vast as heaven and earth. There was also a strange black light flashing in his eyes as he looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes when he saw the black-robed, middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared. In the void not far away, the experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom also raised their heads and looked at the man. When they saw the face of the man, Lord Wu and Gold King were immediately overjoyed. Monarch! Monarch! Lord Wu and Gold King shouted in unison. Upon hearing this address, the experts from the Magic Note Divine Kingdom were instantly in an uproar. Although they were all experts from the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, they rarely had the chance to see the true face of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom's monarch. But now they had finally seen him. Greetings, monarch. We pay our respects to the king. Many figures immediately bowed down, their voices filled with worship and reverence reverberating through the world. The gazes of the experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom turned fiery. The Magic Note King had used his great means to create a great divine kingdom. He was a famous peak existence in the endless territories. Such an expert was naturally awe-inspiring. This was especially so for the experts within the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. Many of them had grown up listening to the legend of the Magic Note King. Some of them had even followed the Magic Note King to expand his territory and had personally witnessed the Magic Note King's rapid rise. Hence, they had a blind admiration for the Magic Note Divine King. And now, the Magic Note King had personally descended and appeared in front of them. The king has actually personally descended? That's great. The king has personally arrived. This time, that person won't be able to act arrogantly. Humph. I admit that this masked man's strength is terrifying, but no matter how powerful he is nothing in front of the king. The king is a 4th-level true saint, and he became a 4th-level true saint a long time ago. Let's see how the king will kill the masked man. He is dead. The experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom were discussing in whispers. They had no doubt about the strength of the king. Although Jian Wushuang had shown great strength in this battle, and even Gold King was no match for him, they did not think that Jian Wushuang could escape from the king, because it was impossible. The black-robed, middle-aged man who suddenly appeared in the void looked at Jian Wushuang calmly with a cold expression. Although he did not speak or show any signs of wanting to attack, just standing there still gave Jian Wushuang great pressure. Such great pressure. If I'm not mistaken, he must be the king of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, Jian Wushuang murmured. He knew very well that in the entire Magic Note Divine Kingdom, only the king of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom could give him such great pressure. I didn't expect that the great king of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom would personally come here. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. In his opinion, although he had caused a great disturbance in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, the king of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom would personally ask about it. However, he would only ask about it. He would not personally come out or make a move. But now, the king of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom had come out personally. Jian Wushuang did not know that the king of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom did not intend to make a move. However, although he did not make a move, he could see what had happened through the dragon imprisoning compass. When he saw the battle between Jian Wushuang and Gold King, he was already shocked when he defeated Gold King. Then, when he saw Jian Wushuang slaughter 16 true saints in an instant while being surrounded by experts from the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, the Magic Note King could not sit still. The dragon-trapping compass was a treasure he refined. He directly controlled the dragon-trapping compass to open a space passage so that his original body could arrive here as soon as possible. After a long silence, the black-robed, middle-aged man in the void, the Magic Note King, finally spoke. "Tell me your name." "Heavenly Sword Marquis," Jian Wushuang said directly. "Heavenly Sword Marquis?" The Magic Note King's expression changed slightly, but he clearly did not remember this name. "You were able to defeat Gold King as a rank 1 true saint and even left dozens of true saint experts in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom helpless. You are definitely not an unknown person. If I'm not wrong, you must be from the 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and not the Heaven and Earth Palace. You are most likely from the Primal Palace." Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces? Many experts from the Magic Note Divine Kingdom were stunned. They were all experts above the Immortal Saint realm and knew of the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces. At the same time, there were also people who had heard of the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces. They knew that it was where many geniuses of the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces cultivated. Now that they heard what the Magic Note King said, these experts immediately understood. That's right, it must be the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces. Only those genius monsters in the 3 palaces have such terrifying strength. A rank 1 true saint has the battle strength of a peak rank 3 true saint. Only the 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving have such a monster. The level of the Heaven and Earth Palace is the lowest in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. The skills displayed by this person have indeed exceeded the level of the geniuses of the Heaven and Earth Palace. The experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom began to discuss. They all thought that Jian Wushuang came from the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces, and it was very likely that he came from the Primal Palace. After all, there were strong and weak geniuses. The geniuses of the Heaven and Earth Palace could also cross ranks to challenge others, but it was not too outrageous. For example, Jian Wushuang had met 3 geniuses of the Heaven and Earth Palace, Chen Chun, Long Yun, and Shui Yu. Among the 3, Chen Chun had fought with him face to face. Chen Chun was clearly a peak false saint, and he had just broken through, but his battle strength was enough to rival a rank 2 true saint. Although Long Yun had never fought with Shui Yu, he had heard from Long Yun that Shui Yu was only a rank 1 true saint, but his battle strength was enough to rival a rank 3 true saint. It could be said that the geniuses of the Heaven and Earth Palace could challenge those of a higher rank. A rank 1 true saint like Shui Yu who could rival a rank 3 true saint was considered a powerful figure in the Heaven and Earth Palace. Jian Wushuang was also only a rank 1 true saint, but the strength he displayed now was already comparable to a peak 3rd level true saint. Obviously, he was much more powerful than Shui Yu. Naturally, the experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom all thought that Jian Wushuang was at least a genius from the Primal Palace. Hearing their words, Jian Wushuang felt a little amused. "I'm not from the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces," Jian Wushuang said directly. "How is that possible? The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance should have found out about such a peerless genius like you long ago, and they must have sent an invitation to you," the Magic Note King said. "Yes, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance did send me an invitation to join the 3 palaces. They invited me twice, but unfortunately, I rejected both times," Jian Wushuang said directly. "Rejected?" The Magic Note King was stunned. "You rejected the invitation of the 3 palaces?" The Magic Note King was a little surprised. He had heard about the authority of the genius disciples of the 3 palaces. It was a place that countless geniuses in the divine beginning world yearned for. Many geniuses at the monster level would fight to enter the heaven-cleaving three palaces, but this heavenly sword marquis had received an invitation, but he had rejected it? Magic Note King. Whether I am a disciple of the heaven-cleaving three palaces has nothing to do with you, right? Jian Wushuang asked in a clear voice. Of course it does. Magic Note King's voice became cold again. If you were a disciple of the heaven-cleaving three palaces, I might not dare to kill you because of the heaven-cleaving alliance. I would at most give you a punishment. But now that I have asked you and you have denied that you are a disciple of the heaven-cleaving three palaces, and I have recorded all of this with the mirror token, the heaven-cleaving alliance will have nothing to say even if I kill you now. Even if you really are a disciple of the heaven-cleaving three palaces, as long as you have denied it, I can kill you. So that's the reason? Jian Wushuang understood. But then he smiled and said, Magic Note King, aren't you a little troublesome? As the king of the divine kingdom, if you want to kill me, just kill me. Do you have to worry so much? Jian Wushuang's words were obviously sarcastic. But the Magic Note King was not angry at all. What a joke. Heavenly Sword Marquis was obviously from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and was so talented. It was reasonable for him to have some misgivings. Even if it spread, no one would laugh at him. On the contrary, if he knew that Jian Wushuang was so talented, if he did not have any misgivings, people would laugh at him and say that he was stupid. It had been many years since the founding of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, and he had experienced countless hardships. However, he was able to survive, and the Magic Note Divine Kingdom was able to survive in addition to his own tyrannical strength. The most important thing was that he knew what to do and who not to provoke. If Jian Wushuang was really a disciple of the heaven-cleaving three palaces, he would never dare to kill him. But now he had nothing to worry about. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you have massacred wantonly within my Magic Note Divine Kingdom. At this point, just the number of true saint experts that have died at your hands has already exceeded 20. If I do not kill you today, how can I intimidate this great divine kingdom? Even if word gets out, others will probably think that my Magic Note Divine Kingdom is easy to bully. So, go to hell. The voice of the Magic Note King was cold and emotionless. As soon as he finished speaking, he slowly raised his right hand. As soon as he raised his hand, a strong rule power gathered and formed a pitch-black light beam in the blink of an eye. The pitch-black light beam did not seem to have any power at first glance. However, as the Magic Note King pointed out, the moment the pitch-black light beam burst out, a strong sound of air being compressed and completely penetrated resounded through the void. This is the power of the dark principles? Jian Wushuang's pupils suddenly constricted. He naturally did not dare to underestimate the Magic Note King, who was a rank 4 true saint. Now, the Magic Note King had used the power of the dark principles perfectly. The pitch-black light beam burst out from his finger contained extremely terrifying power. Without any hesitation, Jian Wushuang surged his divine power. The 30,000-meter-tall Golden Emperor Phantom behind him, with its golden eyes, emitted a terrifying golden light. Jian Wushuang raised his right hand. In an instant, the Blood Mountain Sword suddenly fell down with boundless divine power. The Blood Mountain Sword was blood-red in color. When it fell, it was like a swift and fierce blood-red thunderbolt that fiercely smashed into the black light beam. However, as soon as the two collided, Jian Wushuang was shocked by the terrifying impact force contained in the black beam of light. Then, his divine body shook, and his body flew backward like a cannonball. He kept rolling, and it took him a long time to get rid of the impact force. In the void, Jian Wushuang regained his balance, but it was obvious that he was in a sorry state. What a terrifying power! This power is too strong, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. He had just released all of his divine power. After the battle with Gold King, he knew that his divine power had reached the level of a true saint at the peak of rank 3. With the divine punishment god, his divine power had almost tripled. It should have been above a rank 3 true saint. However, he had been defeated by the Magic Note King in an instant. As expected of a rank 4 true saint, even a casual finger of the principle is extremely terrifying, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Your divine body didn't collapse after taking my finger head-on. It seems that not only your combat strength is good, but your body protection ability is also excellent. The Magic Note King continued to stare at Jian Wushuang. If a genius like you grows up in the future, you will be terrifying. Unfortunately, although your skills are good, you are trapped in my dragon imprisoning compass formation and have no chance to escape. No matter how strong your body protection ability is, you can only block 1 or 2 or 3 of my attacks. If you attack too many times, you will definitely not be able to block them. In the end, you will still die. Dead for sure. Jian Wushuang laughed, with a hint of mockery in his voice. Not long ago, your men said that I would die today, but what happened? They did, and so did you. As for escaping, you think too much. Since I showed up, I have never thought of escaping. Your men are not qualified to let me escape, and neither are you. Jian Wushuang's cold voice slowly echoed in the world. As soon as he finished speaking, he activated the star power in his body. 7-Star Secret Skill, Volume 3. As soon as he activated it, the divine power aura on Jian Wushuang's body began to increase at a terrifying speed. He was only an ordinary first-rank true saint, and it was obvious that he had just made a breakthrough. However, in the blink of an eye, his divine power had reached the peak of a first-rank true saint, and in the end, it had even reached the limit of a first-rank true saint. His divine power aura soared, and the strength of his divine power reached a whole new level. In addition, a layer of dark gold armor appeared on his body. He had also used the 9 Luminaries star armor. After using the divine punishment, my divine power has reached the limit of a rank 3 true saint. I'm almost at the threshold of a rank 4 true saint. After using the 7-Star Secret Skill, my divine power will definitely reach the threshold of a rank 4 true saint. I'm not weak among rank 4 true saints. Finally, I'll use the 9 Luminaries star armor. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Although the 9 Luminaries star armor heavenly armor would not increase the strength of his divine power, this secret skill would directly increase the power of his attack. Moreover, it would increase the power of his attack by 9 times. This also meant that his divine power would increase by 9 times. This secret skill was too terrifying. When these secret skills are combined, my current attack power is far stronger than that of an ordinary rank 4 true saint. I might even reach the peak of a rank 4 true saint. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. It's true that the Magic Note King is a rank 4 true saint, but he hasn't reached the peak of a rank 4 true saint yet. I'm afraid that his power is weaker than mine. Come on. Let me see how powerful a rank 4 true saint is. Jian Wushuang let out a fierce shout, but his body instantly rushed out. At the same time, a terrifying aura completely pressed down on the Magic Note King. You're courting death. The Magic Note King was also shocked and angry. With a cold voice, he waved his hand and a black hammer appeared. The black hammer was surrounded by a large amount of dark rule power. As he took a step forward, the black hammer instantly smashed out. Boom! It was like a black meteor streaking across the sky. Jian Wushuang also waved the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. With a swing of his sword, a sword light suddenly lit up. The sword light was also silent, but the moment it lit up, it roared. A faint roar of a fierce beast echoed in the world. It was a sword light, but in the blink of an eye, the sword light turned into a huge and ferocious beast head. Space-time sword art. Xianxia. The same Xianxia sword art, but with Jian Wushuang using several secret skills at the same time. The power of the sword had increased by many times. In the blink of an eye, the sword light collided with the black meteor. Clang! With a loud sound, Jian Wushuang's body shook violently, and then he was smashed down. Obviously, Jian Wushuang was still completely crushed by this collision. So powerful! Jian Wushuang's figure rose up again, but his heart was still full of shock. From the collision just now, he could feel that the Magic Note King was indeed not as powerful as him in terms of strength and power, but the Magic Note King was much more powerful than him in terms of rule comprehension and the absolute arts he created. For example, although the sword skill Xianxia was an absolute art that focused on power, it was only at the 2nd level. The Magic Note King was a genuine rank 4 true saint, and the absolute arts he had created were all at the 4th level. There was a gap of 2 levels in absolute arts. Even though the Magic Note King's divine power was inferior to his, he could still crush him in a real fight. If Jian Wushuang was merely shocked by the strength of the Magic Note King, who was a rank 4 true saint, then the Magic Note King was extremely shocked at this moment. I only used divine power and the power of the rule of darkness to attack him. It's normal that I was unable to defeat his divine body. However, I used my own magic weapon and absolute art to attack him. Although I was able to defeat him, I was still unable to defeat his divine body. The Magic Note King's face darkened. It seems like I'll have to spend some effort to destroy his god body. As soon as he finished speaking, Magic Note King flipped his other hand, and a black hammer appeared. 2 black hammers were held in Magic Note King's hands, each of them giving off a terrifying aura. Dark meteor fall. The Magic Note King's eyes turned cold, and the endless power of the rule of darkness surged from his body. Rumble. The world was completely dark, as if it had fallen into darkness. In the endless darkness, the 2 meteors slid down in an instant. With an invincible momentum, they smashed toward Jian Wushuang. Heaven and earth shook. In terms of power, either of the 2 meteors was much more powerful than the sledgehammer that the Magic Note King had just swung. This move was the strongest move that the Magic Note King had created over a long period of time. If it was at the general level, this move was an advanced level rank 4 secret skill. It was personally executed by the Magic Note King, so the power of this move could only be described as terrifying. This hammer! Jian Wushuang widened his eyes. He could feel the shocking power of the 2 meteors. In an instant, a supreme sword essence burst out from his body. This sword essence came from the supreme sword essence of the Blood Mountain sword. The sword essence soared into the sky and swept out. Jian Wushuang himself transformed into the master of sword principle. With the support of this sword essence, his overall battle strength rose to another level. Xianxia. Without pausing for a moment, Jian Wushuang directly performed the first move of Xianxia. The sword light swung out and collided directly with the 2 streams of light. However, when the 2 collided, Jian Wushuang already felt a huge force coming at him. This force suppressed his Blood Mountain sword and made his arms bend. Then the stream of light crushed the Blood Mountain sword and continued to hit his divine body. Bang! Jian Wushuang groaned. He licked his throat and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. His divine body began to tremble crazily. His internal organs trembled, causing great damage. However, the damage was quickly repaired by his divine power. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang was sent flying again. Your divine body is really amazing. As expected, in addition to the high-level protective armor you're wearing, you must have cultivated a very powerful body-refining secret skill. Otherwise, your divine body would not collapse under my attack. The Magic Note King stood high in the sky. He looked down at Jian Wushuang. However, although your divine body did not collapse directly, you suffered a serious injury under my hammer. Although you've recovered now, it must have consumed a lot of divine power to repair such a serious injury. You might be able to withstand such a scene once or twice, but if you do it a few more times, I'm afraid you won't be able to withstand it. The experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom who were watching the battle nodded in agreement. They could tell that Jian Wushuang had been severely injured, but he had fully recovered with his immortal body and divine power. However, it would take a lot of divine power to recover from such a serious injury, and it would take a lot of divine power to recover after a few more rounds. When his divine power was exhausted, he would definitely die. Magic Note Kingdom, you talk too much nonsense. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and his voice was extremely cold. If you want to fight, then let's fight. After saying that, Jian Wushuang rushed out again. Without any intention of retreating, he rushed toward Magic Note King. Even though he knew that he was no match for Magic Note King, he did not hesitate to wield his long sword and perform the Xianxia move. He wanted to fight head-on with the Magic Note King and determine the outcome of the battle. You're courting death. The Magic Note King laughed disdainfully when he saw this scene. The 2 black sledgehammers in his hands smashed out again. The same scene happened again. Jian Wushuang was still sent flying and his divine body was seriously injured again. However, after he regained his balance, Jian Wushuang did not back down at all. Instead, he continued to charge forward ferociously. Bang! 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 The two collided repeatedly. Each time, Jian Wushuang was completely crushed and his divine body was heavily injured. However, he did not seem to care at all and continued to charge forward after repairing it with divine power. Just like that, they collided again and again. At first, the Magic Note King thought that Jian Wushuang was reckless. However, after the repeated collisions, the Magic Note King vaguely sensed that something was amiss. No, Jian Wushuang is so talented and can become an immortal saint. He is not a fool. He knows that he is not as strong as me, but he still insists on fighting me head-on. It's too strange to compete with my strength. Magic Note King frowned. It was indeed strange. He had long seen that Jian Wushuang was comprehending the space-time principles. The space-time principles focused on speed, but it was not very good at strength and power. Jian Wushuang's speed and movement skills were so amazing that he should have made full use of his advantage in speed and movement skills. But what was the result? Jian Wushuang had only used his swordsmanship to fight against him blindly, and every time he collided with his divine body, he was seriously injured, but he did not stop at all. This was certainly suspicious. This kid must be planning something. There must be something that I haven't noticed yet. The Magic Note King narrowed his eyes. This kid must be planning something. There must be something that I haven't noticed yet. The Magic Note King narrowed his eyes and began to observe carefully. Bang! Another head-on collision. Jian Wushuang was sent flying as usual and his divine body was seriously injured again. However, after this collision, the Magic Note King's expression suddenly changed. No, the power is not right. It's the same swordsmanship, but the power of his sword seems to be a little better than the first one? Yes, it is a little better. The Magic Note King finally noticed it. Jian Wushuang seemed to be sent flying and trampled by the Magic Note King. But the power of Jian Wushuang's sword was also increasing. It was indeed increasing. It's not his divine power that is getting stronger, but his swordsmanship. His swordsmanship is getting stronger. The Magic Note King suddenly raised his head, a rare look of surprise on his face. He finally understood why Jian Wushuang was acting like a fool, blindly clashing with him again and again. He is using me to improve his swordsmanship. A fierce light flashed in the eyes of the Magic Note King. Do you feel it? Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Yes, just as the Magic Note King had guessed, he was improving his swordsmanship. He had meditated in seclusion for 120 years and created two great swordsmanships. One of them, Star Dream, was already in its embryonic form. It was also a third-level absolute art. It was fast, had amazing cutting and tearing abilities, and could kill at close range. This move was of great help to Jian Wushuang. He had relied on this move to kill so many true saints in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. However, Star Dream was not suitable for a confrontation of power. The move, Xianxia, was a move that truly valued power. Unfortunately, although Jian Wushuang had created this move, it was still a distance away from the embryonic form of the sword technique. In other words, this sword technique had not been truly completed and was still in the stage where it could be reconstructed and perfected. However, in order to perfect this move, he needed to constantly fight with others, and it was best to fight head-on. Therefore, when he fought with Gold King previously, he initially tried to use the Xianxia swordsmanship to fight Gold King head-on. However, Gold King's strength was too weak and could not give him much pressure. Therefore, when he fought Gold King head-on, his swordsmanship could not be improved much. But it was completely different when he fought with the Magic Note King. The Magic Note King was a rank 4 true saint. The most powerful skill he created was an advanced rank 4 skill, which also focused on strength and power. In a head-on fight with such an expert, even if Jian Wushuang used all of his secret skill cards and used the Xianxia move, he was still completely crushed. This gave Jian Wushuang an opportunity. That was why he kept fighting head-on with the Magic Note King in a seemingly silly manner. While fighting, He was constantly pondering the shortcomings of the move Xixiang. During the process of the collision, he was constantly improving this sword skill. Until now, after dozens of collisions, he had really improved this sword skill a lot. Unsurprisingly, the move of Xixiang had reached the level of the peak of stage 2 and was still improving. Haha! Awesome! Awesome! Magic Note King! Let's try again! Jian Wushuang's hearty laughter echoed in the heaven and earth, and he rushed toward Magic Note King again. Damn it! Magic Note King's face immediately darkened. In the surrounding void, the immortal saints of the Magic Note King gathered together and watched the battle attentively. During this time, they also discussed among themselves. As expected of the king, his strength is too strong. The battle strength that Heavenly Sword Marquis displayed before was already at the peak of rank 3 True Saint Realm. I didn't expect him to have so many tricks up his sleeve. Now that he has used so many tricks, his battle strength is probably close to that of a rank 4 True Saint. Even so, he still has no room to resist in front of the king. He is completely crushed by the king. Humph! Humph, this Heavenly Sword Marquis is really cheap. He was completely crushed by the king, and then he was trampled by the king, but he still laughed so happily. That's right. If I were him, I would have thought of a way to escape long ago. If he continues to fight like this, I'm afraid that his divine power will be completely exhausted before long, and then he will definitely die. The immortal saints were chatting and laughing. They all thought that Jian Wushuang was a complete idiot and also praised the strength of the Magic Note King. But at this moment, shut up! A low shout suddenly sounded. The immortal saints were shocked and immediately looked at Gold King, who was shouting in a low voice. Haven't you noticed that something is wrong? Gold King said in a low voice. Wrong. The immortal saints looked at each other, puzzled. A bunch of idiots. Gold King said in a low voice. Do you think that Heavenly Sword Marquis is really stupid? He knew that he couldn't defeat the king, but he still foolishly kept clashing with him? Ridiculous. Didn't you notice that the power of the sword technique that Heavenly Sword Marquis displayed was steadily increasing after clashing with the king? What? His swordsmanship is increasing? How is this possible? The immortal saints were shocked and looked at the battlefield carefully in the next moment. When they saw this, many people's pupils shrank. They also saw that the head-on collision between Jian Wushuang and the Magic Note King was completely crushing. Jian Wushuang was completely crushed. However, after dozens of collisions, Jian Wushuang was still crushed, but not as easily as before. After several more collisions, the unique skill of the Magic Note King could not even crush Jian Wushuang. A third-level unique skill. The sword skill that Heavenly Sword Marquis used when he fought with me was only a relatively strong second-level unique skill, but now the power of his sword has exceeded the scope of a second-level unique skill. He has already touched the threshold of a third-level unique skill. That is to say, during his confrontation with the king, he raised his sword technique Absolute Art student from a rank 2 Absolute Art to a rank 3 Absolute Art, and he is still improving. When Gold King said this, his body could not help but tremble. The surrounding people were completely stunned. Gold King's words stirred up a huge wave in the hearts of the experts from the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. How long had the Heavenly Sword Marquis fought with the Magic Note King? Even if they had clashed head-on, they had only clashed dozens of times. In such a short period of time, had the power of his sword techniques increased? From a rank 2 Absolute Art to a rank 3 Absolute Art? Was this not too terrifying? Monster! A real monster! The experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom could not help but exclaim. Even the Magic Note King had an extremely interesting expression on his face. The power from his sword is getting stronger and stronger. Even if I used my strongest move, I wouldn't be able to completely crush him. Furthermore, his sword technique level is still increasing. The Magic Note King's eyes were filled with shock. Moreover, he has collided with me so many times. Previously, his divine body was heavily damaged and it took a lot of divine power to repair it. However, after dozens of collisions, his divine power is still abundant. What's going on? Even the Magic Note King was baffled. He did not know that Jian Wushuang was immersed in comprehension as he collided with him. No, my swordsmanship has improved a lot after clashing with each other and has reached the threshold of the third level absolute art. However, I still feel that I'm missing something very important, Jian Wushuang muttered. Now, because of the soaring power of his swordsmanship, he was not as crushed as before when he fought with the Magic Note King. He was only slightly suppressed. At this moment, he was carefully observing the hammering skills of the Magic Note King. The two black hammers wielded by the Magic Note King contained extremely dense dark rules. The power of the two hammers was also extremely powerful and extremely swift. However, Jian Wushuang soon noticed something else amidst the swift and fierce movements. Is this evil energy? Yes, it's the gas. I see. I know what I lack in swordsmanship. Is this kind of indomitable, invincible hostility. Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly lit up, and his heart suddenly opened up. After all, he was comprehending the principles of time and space, which were very elusive and not as violent as the fire and thunder. However, Jian Wushuang had created the Xianxia swordsmanship, which was a move that focused entirely on power. How can there be no hostility? Rage. I'm going to make my swordplay violent. Jian Wushuang's eyes glittered with golden light. The next moment, the sword style in his hand began to change invisibly. That long sword cleaves out, in an instant shocking power swept. A strong evil spirit swept out. The power of the sword also immediately increased a lot. Bang! 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 The Magic Note King's face became more and more unsightly. His swordsmanship is becoming more and more powerful, and its power is increasing faster and faster. His sword form is also becoming more and more violent. The Magic Note King stared at Jian Wushuang. At first, when he used his most powerful skill, Jian Wushuang could not resist him at all. He was just one strike away from destroying his divine body. Then, even if the power of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship had increased a lot, he could still easily crush him. Just now, although the power of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship had increased to the level of a rank 3 absolute art, it was still inferior to his. He could still suppress it. But now, Jian Wushuang waved the same swordsmanship again. Although it was still a little inferior to his, it was enough to put some pressure on him. The improvement speed was incredible. Most importantly, the improvement speed was still going on. Suddenly, this is the time. Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly burst out with a shocking light. The 30,000 feet tall golden emperor phantom behind him also flashed with endless golden light. Roar! A deep, angry roar suddenly came from heaven and earth. Jian Wushuang also slashed out with his sword, but the instant he did so, the sword light directly turned into a complete and huge ancient exotic beast. This ancient exotic beast was extremely ferocious, and it was filled with a fierce aura. With a shocking power, it directly attacked. The Magic Note King seemed to have noticed the increase in power of this sword, and in fear, he also swung her two hammers again. Dark meteor shower. Hong! Hong! The world immediately turned dark. Under this boundless darkness, two dark rays of light instantly descended, and in the blink of an eye, they collided head-on with the ancient strange beast. Pong! A loud sound shook the world, and the surrounding void stirred up endless waves. A huge shock wave swept out without restraint. In the middle of the collision, the Magic Note King opened his mouth slightly. He was purely shocked because he had already felt the power coming from his sledgehammer. The power was actually above his. Boom! The void was about to explode, and the Magic Note King staggered back a few steps. As for Jian Wushuang, he was still standing there as if he was not affected at all. He was pushed back. The Magic Note King was pushed back. How is it possible? Impossible! The king was pushed back by a head-on collision? The experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom who were watching the battle widened their eyes in disbelief. Even the Magic Note King himself was completely stunned. As for Jian Wushuang, he stood in the void with a sword in one hand, looking at the long sword in his hand with great excitement. How can a sword technique that focuses purely on power not be filled with evil energy? Only indomitable evil energy can create an unstoppable attack. Only such a sword technique can be considered complete. Jian Wushuang could not help clenching his fist. After the repeated head-on confrontations and clashes with the Magic Note King, the sword skill Xixiang, created by him, was finally perfected. Since then, besides the Star Dream, Jian Wushuang had created the embryonic form of the second sword skill. This sword move of mine should have reached the level of a peak stage 3 secret skill, but it has an amazing evil aura. It's no longer suitable to be named Xixiang. Instead, it should be named Evil Xiang. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Evil Xiang. This sword move had a complete framework and could become the embryonic form of swordsmanship. And just now, he had relied on this sword attack to force the Magic Note King back. This was the first time he had defeated the Magic Note King in a head-on collision. Moreover, this was not the least bit fancy. If there was not the slightest bit of luck, it was purely a victory in terms of strength. Just like the Magic Note King, he was now completely stupefied. Peak of rank 3. His sword skills just now have reached the level of peak of rank 3. The Magic Note King was so shocked that he did not know what to say. At first, it was only a level 2 skill, not even a peak of rank 2 skill, but because of the short fight with him, it directly reached the level of peak of rank 3 skill. Magic Note King, I should thank you. Without you as my sparring partner, it would not be so easy for me to upgrade my sword technique. Jian Wushuang looked at Magic Note King with a faint smile. Magic Note King let out a sigh of relief and finally calmed down. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you win. Your talent is definitely the most terrifying one I have ever seen. I thought you were a genius of the Primal Palace in the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces, but now it seems that you can definitely enter the legendary Chaos Palace, and it's unknown whether you can find a genius like you in the palace. I can't kill you, so you should leave. The Magic Note King had already asked Jian Wushuang to leave. Hearing this, the experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom changed their expressions, but then they felt relieved. Indeed, the Magic Note King had personally made a move, but they all saw that the Magic Note King really could not kill Jian Wushuang. Since he could not kill Jian Wushuang, he naturally had to let him leave. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Lord of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, you know that I have no enmity with your Magic Note Divine Kingdom. I came to the Magic Note Divine Kingdom to complete a mission of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. I accepted a heaven-grade mission to kill 12 true saint experts under the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, but so far, I have only killed 8 of them. Jian Wushuang had already killed 7 people, including Holy Master Huatsong. He had also killed one of the true saints who had surrounded him. However, he still killed 8 people and was 4 short. What do you mean? The Magic Note King stared at Jian Wushuang coldly. My meaning is simple. I haven't completed my task. Of course, I will leave after I complete my task, Jian Wushuang said. You still want to kill 4 true saints in my Magic Note Divine Kingdom? The Magic Note King's voice was filled with anger. That's right. Jian Wushuang looked straight at the Magic Note King without any fear. Seeing this, the Magic Note King could only suppress his anger. He calmly said, Heavenly Sword Marquis, you accepted the mission of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance for the reward of the mission. How about I give you double the reward of the mission? Under normal circumstances, the Magic Note King would never bow his head. However, he could do nothing about it. He knew that he could do nothing to Jian Wushuang. If Jian Wushuang was determined to kill the experts under the command of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, he could not stop him. However, the people Jian Wushuang wanted to kill were all experts under his command, and they were all under his protection. Now that there were so many experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom around, he naturally wanted to protect them as much as possible, no matter what method he used. Double the reward? Jian Wushuang's heart was moved. If he completed this mission alone, he could get 150 million sacred elixirs, which was already a large number. If he got double the reward, it would be 300 million sacred elixirs. Such a large amount of sacred elixirs. Any rank 3 true saint would feel extremely distressed. Of course, for the Magic Note King, who had created the Great Divine Kingdom and was an ancient 4th-level true saint, 300 million sacred elixirs should be nothing. Magic Note King, the conditions you mentioned have indeed tempted me, but unfortunately, I'm in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. I don't accept missions. As long as I accept them, I will do my best to complete them. Moreover, I have to complete the mission this time because those people I want to kill deserve to die. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. His voice reverberated between heaven and earth, and it was obvious that there was no room for negotiation. What a joke. The reason why Jian Wushuang accepted this mission was firstly that it was extremely difficult and stressed him greatly, so he could seek a breakthrough. Secondly, it was because the people who were to be killed in this mission deserved to die. Holy Master Huizong, who had burned 1/10 of the cultivators in a realm into ashes to refine his natal magic weapon, was so cruel that heaven and earth would not tolerate him. The other people on his kill list were also extremely evil. How could Jian Wushuang show mercy to such a person? Therefore, not to mention the double reward, even if he was given 10 times the reward, he would not change his mind. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you are going too far. The Magic Note King was finally completely furious. He had already lowered himself and was willing to pay the double reward. But the Heavenly Sword Marquis still refused and wanted to kill the true saints under him. How could he not be angry? You're going too far? Humph. So what if I'm going too far? Jian Wushuang's eyes were also cold. Magic Note King, I'm too lazy to talk to you. I must kill the remaining 4 people on the list. If you're sensible, go back to your palace. After killing all 4 of them, I'll leave the Magic Note Divine Kingdom and won't have any dealings with you anymore. But if you are stubborn and try to stop me, do you believe that I will slaughter all the true saint experts in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom? Don't you dare! Magic Note King was furious, and his terrifying divine power suddenly pressed toward Jian Wushuang. Do you think I dare? Jian Wushuang was also surging with divine power. With the support of various secret skills, his divine power was even stronger than Magic Note King's. He was not afraid of the Magic Note King at all. The Magic Note King was so angry that his body was trembling, and he stared at Jian Wushuang with his scarlet eyes. Good, good, good. The Magic Note King said 3 good words in a row, and each good was almost gnashing his teeth. Heavenly Sword Marquis, just you wait. I want to see how you kill the person I want to protect. After saying that, Magic Note King turned around and left. As for the dragon imprisoning compass formation that had been sealing the area, it was naturally taken away by Magic Note King. Let's go! Since Magic Note King had left, the immortal saints of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom did not dare to stay any longer. They left as quickly as possible. Jian Wushuang looked at their backs and narrowed his eyes. Magic Note King, I hope you can be smarter. Otherwise, the Magic Note King and the others left directly. Jian Wushuang also left immediately and went to the place where the remaining 4 people on the kill list were. This was an ancient sect which had existed for a long time. It had existed since the Magic Note Divine Kingdom was founded. There were many experts in the sect, including more than 10 immortal saints. Buzz! Jian Wushuang appeared in the void above the sect and looked down. According to the information given by the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, one of the 4 remaining experts is staying in the sect all year round. Jian Wushuang moved and directly entered the sect. At the same time, his soul power and scrupulously swept out. Ha! Jian Wushuang frowned when he checked with his soul power. There were more than 10 immortal saints in the sect. Normally, there should be at least 7 or 8 of them staying in the sect. However, in fact, Jian Wushuang only sensed the existence of 5 immortal saints. Only one of them was a true saint and had just made the breakthrough. The other 4 were only false saints. As for the person Jian Wushuang was looking for, he was not in the sect at all. Gone! Jian Wushuang was stunned. Humph! A cold snort, like the wrath of the 9 heavens, suddenly exploded in the sect. Many of the experts and disciples in the sect were instantly shocked. Before long, the few immortal saints appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Who are you? May I know why you are here? A white-haired elder asked with a humble expression. Let me ask you, where is the 3-winged elder of the Dark God sect? Jian Wushuang asked directly. 3-winged elder? The white-haired elder's expression changed, and then he said, Your Excellency, 3-winged elder left the Dark God sect not long ago. As for where he went, we don't know. He left. Jian Wushuang's expression was cold. He glanced at the experts of the sect, but he did not get angry. Instead, he turned around and left. Soon, he was going to another territory. According to the information provided by the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, he was going to find the second person on the kill list. When he arrived at the residence of the true saint had also left. It's okay for one person to suddenly leave his residence, but both of them left not long ago. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. He already understood why this had happened. Magic Note King. It seems that you want to force me. Jian Wushuang thought quickly and made a decision in his heart. In a towering temple. Lord Wu, we just got the news that Heavenly Sword Marquis went to Heaven Lake Forest after leaving the Dark God sect. However, the Heaven Lake Saint had already received our orders and left, so Heavenly Sword Marquis still failed. An enchanting woman said with a wicked smile. Good. Lord Wu also revealed a cold smile. Heavenly Sword Marquis thinks he can do whatever he wants in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, just because he has some strength that the king can't do anything to him. What a joke! The Magic Note Divine Kingdom is our territory. Here, the king is the god. Even if the king can't kill him, as long as the king doesn't agree, he can't kill the remaining 4 people on the kill list. Lord Wu was very confident. The Magic Note Divine Kingdom was a great divine kingdom in endless territories. Not only was it powerful, but its influence was also extraordinary. After knowing that he could not do anything to Jian Wushuang, and that Jian Wushuang would continue to kill the other 4 true saints, the Magic Note King activated his influence to investigate the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and easily found out the contents of Jian Wushuang's mission. At the same time, he also knew the people on Jian Wushuang's kill list. Therefore, the Magic Note King immediately ordered the remaining 4 to leave their residence and find a place to hide. If these 4 true saints really wanted to hide, Jian Wushuang would not be able to find them. Let's find them. Let Heavenly Sword Marquis find them by himself. We don't need to care about him. Lord Wu sneered. However, just as Lord Wu was feeling proud, Palace Master, something bad has happened. A message suddenly came. The person who had sent this message was a rank 2 true saint under his command. What's wrong? Lord Wu immediately asked. It's Heavenly Sword Marquis. He's killed his way to the Heaven Magus Palace. The rank 2 true saint said anxiously. What did you say? Lord Wu's expression changed drastically. The Heaven Magus Palace was a large-scale sect under the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. And most importantly, the Palace Master of the Heaven Magus Palace was Lord Wu himself. How could it be? There is no one on his kill list in the Heaven Magus Palace. How could he kill his way to the Heaven Magus Palace? Lord Wu shouted with a trace of fear in his eyes. There were many experts in the Heaven Magus Palace. But these experts would not have any room to fight against Jian Wushuang. If Jian Wushuang wanted to, he could kill all the experts in the Heaven Magus Palace alone. Palace Master, Heavenly Sword Marquis did come and kill us 3 true saints. He also left a message. This is just a lesson. In 3 months, he will kill the last 4 people on the list. If one of them escapes, he will kill 10 more true saints in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. If all 4 escape, he will kill all the immortal saints in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, the rank 2 true saints said with fear. Hearing this, Lord Wu was immediately shocked and angry. However, besides being shocked and angry, there was more fear. He thought that as long as the 4 people hid and Jian Wushuang could not find them, everything would be fine. But now, it was obvious that Jian Wushuang was not a good person. He was decisive in the killing. He did not need any reason and did not give you any chance. As long as one of the last 4 people on the list escaped, he would have to use the lives of the 10 true saints of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom to make up for it. If all 4 of them escaped, he would go on a killing spree. Madman. This fellow is a complete madman, Lord Wu growled. Lord, Heavenly Sword Marquis is clearly forcing us to hand over those 4 people. If we hand them over, the majesty of the king will probably be instantly swept away. But if we don't hand them over, Heavenly Sword Marquis doesn't seem to be joking. Furthermore, he does indeed have the strength to slaughter many immortal saints. The enchanting woman said solemnly. I know. Lord Wu nodded slightly, and his expression was extremely unsightly. After a while he stood up. There's no rush. I'll go see the king and let him make the decision. Inside the palace, which was entirely made of lilac crystals, Lord Wu had reported Jian Wushuang's attack on the Heaven Magus Palace to the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, who was waiting outside the palace. In the middle of the palace, the Magic Note King was sitting on a lofty throne with a gloomy face. In front of him, there was a vague figure floating in the air. This hazy figure was obviously the embodiment of the consciousness of an expert. Senior Martial Brother, that heavenly sword marquis is simply going too far. However, Junior Martial Brother can't do anything to him, so I can only seek your help, Senior Martial Brother. The Magic Note King said solemnly. If others were to hear the Magic Note King's words, they would definitely be shocked. This was because no one in the outside world knew that the Magic Note King had another Senior Martial Brother. After all, he was already a powerful rank for true saint, and his senior brother, how powerful was he? Junior Brother, I already know about this matter you mentioned. Unfortunately, I can't help you, the hazy figure said directly. Why? The Magic Note King asked anxiously. It's very simple. That heavenly sword marquis battle strength is no weaker than yours. In a head-on confrontation, even you can't compare to him. Although my strength is slightly stronger than yours, I'm only at the peak of the rank 4. Even if I join hands with you, I can at most suppress him, but I can't kill him. In the end, I can't do anything to him either, the hazy figure said. We can't kill him together, but you have a suppression-type holy treasure. We can suppress him together, the Magic Note King said seriously. He knew his senior brother very well. Not only was he powerful, but he also had a lot of treasures. His senior brother had an extremely rare suppression-type holy treasure, and it was of a high level. As long as they could suppress Jian Wushuang, they did not have to worry about not being able to suppress him. I can suppress him, but I will not help you unless it is a hatred that will not rest until one of us is dead, the hazy figure said. The Magic Note King was stunned. He looked up and asked, Senior Brother, are you worried about the heaven-cleaving alliance? Yes, the hazy figure nodded. Junior Brother, according to what you said, Heavenly Sword Marquis is only a rank 1 true saint, and it is very likely that he has just broken through, but his battle strength is enough to rival a rank 4 true saint. What does this mean? It means that he is a genius, a super genius, a super monster. Such a super monster, and he is from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. How can he be easily suppressed by you? But he has not admitted that he is a genius of the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces, said the Magic Note King. If he doesn't admit it himself, doesn't that mean that he isn't? The hazy figure shook his head and smiled. No matter what, I have gone to the 3rd heaven to explore, and I have seen a genius of the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces. That genius has never admitted to outsiders that he is a member of the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces because they want to temper themselves, so they will not easily expose their identity. And the genius I've seen is a 2nd-level true saint, and he's been a 2nd-level true saint for a long time, and his battle strength is only comparable to a rank 4 true saint. Such a genius can have a certain status in the 3 palaces, and this Heavenly Sword Marquis has just broken through to the rank 1 true saint, and he's already able to fight you head-on, and he even has the upper hand in a head-on fight. Such a terrifying talent is dozens of times more outstanding than the heaven-cleaving palace genius I've seen, hundreds of times. Such a super monster is definitely one of the most terrifying geniuses in the Primal Chaos Palace. Such a super monster is not only highly regarded by the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, but also to a large extent, the master of the principles of the Alliance has appeared. Those who want to take them as their personal disciples, especially a genius like the Heavenly Sword Marquis. I'm afraid that there are more than 1 or 2 who want to take him as their personal disciple. In other words, not only does Heavenly Sword Marquis have the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance behind him, but he also has the master of a principal master. How can we afford to offend such a person? The Magic Note King's expression turned solemn. Of course, he understood what his senior brother had said. He had asked Jian Wushuang in detail whether he came from the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces before making his move. If Jian Wushuang really came from the three palaces, he would not dare to kill him. Senior brother, this is just your guess. But what if he is not from the three palaces? The Magic Note King was still unwilling to give up. Even if he is not, since he can become a heaven-grade member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, he must have shown his talent on the way to completing the mission. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance must have noticed him long ago, and such a genius will definitely be noticed by the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance from time to time. If we join hands to suppress Heavenly Sword Marquis, there is still more than an 80% chance that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will come to us directly, the shadowy figure said with certainty. In any case, as long as we make a move, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will target us no matter what. Moreover, the Heavenly Sword Marquis has only killed a few of your true saints. At most, you will lose some face. It is not a real feud that will not rest until one of us is dead. Why do you have to take such a big risk to deal with him? Junior brother, you have become the king of a region for too long. But you have to remember that after our sect was destroyed and our master died, the two of us became stray dogs. At that time, in order to survive, we used all kinds of methods. How could we still care about our ego? In this world, the weak are prey to the strong. The strong are respected. What is face? Only survival is the most important thing. The blurry figure was very open-minded. It was just a little bit of face. If he lost it, he would lose it. How could he risk his life just for a little bit of face? I understand. The Magic Note King nodded slightly. Obviously, he had been persuaded by the blurry figure. It's good that you understand. The hazy figure said, how about this? Don't you want to lose face? Then do your best to minimize the loss of face. On the surface, you can still protect the four people under you unyieldingly. On the other hand, tell your most trusted person to meet Heavenly Sword Marquis. Tell him the location of the four people and let him kill them. Hearing this, the Magic Note King could not help but glare. On the surface, he pretended to be very tough in protecting his subordinates. But in the dark, he told the Heavenly Sword Marquis where the four people were hiding. This method, that Heavenly Sword Marquis only wants to complete his mission, but he has no intention of becoming your enemy. There's no need for you to lose so much face. As long as you tell him the location of the four people, he should be able to take this opportunity to step down, said the hazy figure. Got it. Thank you, senior brother. The Magic Note King nodded. He already knew what to do. The hazy figure quickly disappeared, and a moment later Lord Wu, who had been waiting outside the palace, walked in. Monarch. Lord Wu stood there respectfully. Do you know where those four are hiding? Magic Note King looked down. Of course I do. I personally arranged for them to hide. Lord Wu nodded. That's good. Make a trip to meet Heavenly Sword Marquis and tell him where the four of them are hiding. Also, pass a message to me, the Magic Note King said. I'm going to meet Heavenly Sword Marquis? Lord Wu was stunned. He wanted him to meet Heavenly Sword Marquis and tell him where the four of them were hiding. Was the Magic Note King going to lower his head and admit defeat? Remember, when you meet the Heavenly Sword Marquis, don't let the third person know, and don't let anyone know that it was I who ordered you to tell the Heavenly Sword Marquis where the four of them were hiding. You must remain extremely unyielding to the outside world, and you must swear to protect the four of them with your life. Do you understand? The Magic Note King added. When he heard this, Lord Wu instantly understood. He was not stupid. After thinking about it, he naturally knew the intention of the Magic Note King. Go! The Magic Note King waved his hand. Yes. Lord Wu answered respectfully and then left. On a peaceful barren mountain, Jian Wushuang, who was wearing a gray robe and a gray mask, was sitting cross-legged on a giant rock with his eyes slightly closed, as if he was waiting for something. Soon, a figure appeared in front of him. It was Lord Wu. Are you here? Jian Wushuang opened his eyes and looked at Lord Wu. You knew I would come? Lord Wu said in a low voice as he stared at Jian Wushuang. Of course, unless the Magic Note King is really capable of killing me, he can only send someone to negotiate with me, Jian Wushuang said with a sneer. Lord Wu's expression was uncertain. After a while, he waved his hand and threw a token to Jian Wushuang. saying, "My king asked me to give this to you." After saying that, Lord Wu did not care about Jian Wushuang's reaction and turned to leave. Jian Wushuang took the token and scanned it with his consciousness. However, a playful smile appeared on his face. "Are you finally willing to give in?" Jian Wushuang sneered in his heart, but he was not surprised at all. The Magic Note King was able to create a great divine kingdom. He was not a reckless fool. He was also smart. He should know the consequences of completely falling out with him. The consequences were not a joke. Moreover, it was just 4 true saint subordinates. It was nothing to the Magic Note King. It was just a loss of face and prestige. It was obviously not worth taking such a huge risk just for a little bit of face and prestige. And now, the Magic Note King's methods were rather wise and smart. On the surface, he still pretended to be tough and wanted to protect the 4 of them, putting on an act in front of the experts under him. On the other hand, he sent someone close to him to quietly tell him the location of the 4 of them, asking him to kill them. "I killed the 4 people to complete the task and also because they were extremely evil and worth killing. As for me and the Magic Note King, there is no need to make things too difficult. Since he is willing to submit to me, I will accept his offer." Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and then went straight to the place where the 4 people were hiding. They were still in the territory of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. However, it was an extremely quiet place where almost no one would come and go. It was a desolate forest. There was a swamp in the deepest part of the forest. One of the last 4 people on Jian Wushuang's kill list was hiding in the swamp. The huge swamp was completely covered by a layer of restriction. Inside the restriction, there was a towering and extremely huge palace, deep in the palace. No, sir. Please spare my life. Spare my life." Shrill and crazy screams echoed throughout the entire palace. Many people were screaming. It was obvious that they were suffering from extreme pain. The screams lasted for more than an hour before they gradually subsided. Clang! A door in the inner hall suddenly opened. Then, a middle-aged man in a golden robe walked out of the door with his chest open and his feet bare. The middle-aged man had a bewitching smile on his face, and there was a trace of blood on the side of his mouth. He stood in front of the door and glanced at the inside of the hall. "Go and clean up the inside. Carry the 2 people who were killed out." "Yes." Immediately, more than a dozen maidservants in beautiful clothes walked into the inner palace. Looking at these maidservants, the middle-aged man's lips curled into a sinister smile. Because he was targeted by Jian Wushuang, he had no choice but to hide in the swamp and did not dare to show his face. However, he was a person who enjoyed himself in peace. Even if he hid here, he brought many maidservants and beauties with him. These maidservants and beauties were all for his enjoyment. Otherwise, it would not be a big deal if he hid here alone for a short period of time. However, if he hid here for a long time, he would probably go crazy. Not long after, the middle-aged man appeared in the main hall. He sat upright on the majestic throne and took out a token to check the information that was transmitted from the token. That heavenly sword marquis actually went to the Heaven Magus Palace? How dare he? The middle-aged man's expression was extremely cold, but at the same time, he felt a hint of worry. This heavenly sword marquis is so decisive in his killing, and the king clearly has no way to deal with him. In the end, the king will not give in to him and hand me over, right? No, definitely not. The king is such a lofty existence. He has always been a man of his word in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, and I am an expert under him. It is impossible for him not to protect me with all his strength. If he really hands me over, then his prestige in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom will be completely swept away. He will definitely not do so. The middle-aged man was constantly consoling himself. And very quickly, he received news that the Magic Note King had personally sent word. His stance was extremely tough, and he even said that he had paid a huge price to invite experts to personally rush to the Magic Note Divine Kingdom to help him. As long as the Heavenly Sword Marquis dared to make a move, he would immediately kill him. Haha, as expected, what sort of character is the king? Why would he submit to the Heavenly Sword Marquis? If the Heavenly Sword Marquis was a little smarter, he could just leave right now. If he doesn't leave, he will definitely die. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He really wished that the Heavenly Sword Marquis could die right away. That way he would not have to hide here. However, he did not know that the Heavenly Sword Marquis that he longed for had already arrived at his hiding place. In the void above the swamp, Jian Wushuang looked down at the towering temple with cold eyes. The first person is hiding here? How remote. Jian Wushuang sneered in his heart. At the same time, his soul power had sensed the presence of a large number of maids and beauties in the temple. He was clearly hiding from the pursuit, but he still brought so many maids and beauties with him for his enjoyment. He really deserves to die. Without any hesitation, Jian Wushuang dived down. Boom! The restriction that had always existed in the sky above the swamp was broken by Jian Wushuang in an instant, and he directly charged into the palace. The golden-robed middle-aged man sitting in the main hall also looked up in horror. When he looked up, he found Jian Wushuang, who had entered the palace. He was wearing a gray robe and a gray, cold mask, which was obviously the attire of a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. There was only one person from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance who might come to kill him. Heavenly Sword Marquis. It's Heavenly Sword Marquis. The gold-robed middle-aged man turned pale with fright, and his heart turned cold instantly. He immediately began to flee. At the same time, he immediately wanted to send a message to the highest level of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. Lord Wu. How is it possible? My hiding place is so remote. How did Heavenly Sword Marquis find me? Could it be that the maidservants around me, the beauties, leaked the news? The golden-robed middle-aged man kept growling in his heart. At first, he thought that it was the people around him who leaked the news so that Jian Wushuang could find them. But soon he denied this guess, because he had already set up a special magic array in this swamp, which was the restriction that Jian Wushuang had just broken. The restriction could prevent the handmaidens and beauties from communicating with the outside world. Except for him, no one could communicate with the outside world. The news that he was hiding here could not have been leaked by someone close to him. Since it was not the maids and beauties who leaked the news, then the person who leaked the news, could it be the king? The golden-robed middle-aged man just thought of this. Buzz! A silver light appeared beside him like a ghost, and at the same time, a cold sword light swept toward him. The golden-robed middle-aged man was only a rank 1 true saint, and his strength was average. Even before Jian Wushuang had broken through to the Immortal Saint realm, he could easily kill this man's rank 1 true saint. Now that he had broken through to the Immortal Saint realm, his battle strength was strong enough to rival a rank 4 true saint. Killing such a rank 1 true saint was as easy as killing a chicken or slaughtering a dog. After consuming 2 drops of the god-burning poison, the golden-robed middle-aged man's eyes were wide open, but his consciousness was gradually dissipating. When his consciousness was about to completely dissipate, he had completely figured it out. The Magic Note King's tough attitude toward the outside world was just an act. In fact, the Magic Note King had already submitted to Heavenly Sword Marquis and told him where he was hiding. Unfortunately, it was too late for him to figure it out. Whoosh! A moment later, Jian Wushuang set off again toward the second person's hiding place. The last 4 people on the must-kill list were hiding in 4 different places. However, Jian Wushuang already knew about these 4 places. All he had to do was to find them one by one and kill them. His movements were very fast and neat. The 4 people had not received any news and thought that the Magic Note King would try his best to protect them. In the end, they all died under Jian Wushuang's sword. After killing these 4 people, all 12 people on the must-kill list had died. Naturally, Jian Wushuang had completed the heaven-level task. He did not plan to stay in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom and left directly. However, no one in the outside world knew about their deaths. The experts under the Magic Note Divine Kingdom had not received any news. Most of them thought that the 4 people were still hiding or had left the Magic Note King, but they did not know that they had died at Jian Wushuang's hands. Therefore, the reputation and dignity of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom were barely preserved. In the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, there was a secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. In the secret lair, Xuedong King was already waiting for him. Xuedong King, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Jian Wushuang appeared in front of Xuedong King with an apologetic look on his face. Haha, not at all. Besides, it's worth waiting for decades to see the good show between you and the Magic Note King. Xuedong King laughed. Deep down, Xuedong King still had not completely calmed down. He had not left immediately after giving Jian Wushuang the god-burning poison. Instead, he had stayed behind to watch the battle between Jian Wushuang and the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. He had seen it clearly. Jian Wushuang had defeated Gold King at the beginning, then massacred many true saint experts of the Magic Note Divine Fruit, and finally, the king of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom had personally arrived. In the end, he could not do anything to Jian Wushuang. He was even forced back by Jian Wushuang in a head-on confrontation. This scene shocked Xuedong King more than he had ever seen before. At that time, he could not help roaring in his heart. A rank 1 true saint is fighting against a rank 4 true saint. Does he still want to live? Xuedong King was more and more impressed with Jian Wushuang, and he could not see through him. Xuedong King, wait for me. I'll go and hand in the task. Jian Wushuang immediately walked to the counter. At the counter, Jian Wushuang took out his identity token and began to hand in the task. When the purple-robed elder who handed in the task to Jian Wushuang knew Jian Wushuang's identity and the task he had completed, his heart was filled with excitement. The secret lair was located in the Magic Note Divine Land. The person in charge of the lair was well aware of what was happening in the Magic Note Divine Land, so he was naturally amazed. It did not take long for Jian Wushuang's mission to be completed. At the same time, he received a reward of 150 million sacred elixirs. Xuedong King, this is for you. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and handed an interspatial ring to Xuedong King. Xuedong King took it and took a look. His body suddenly trembled. Brother Heavenly Marquis, what are you doing? You sent me 100 drops of god-burning poison. It's very expensive, but I haven't given you the sacred elixirs. Jian Wushuang smiled. But isn't this too much? Xuedong King said immediately. It was not his fault for being shocked. There were 100 million sacred elixirs in the interspatial ring that Jian Wushuang gave him. 100 million. He had only used 40 million sacred elixirs to buy the 100 drops of god-burning venom. But now Jian Wushuang had given him more than twice that. Take it. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He had a certain friendship with Xuedong King, but it was not very deep. But this time, when he sent a message to Xuedong King asking him to send him some god-burning poison, he told him in detail about his situation, including the fact that the surrounding area was completely sealed and he was only allowed to enter and not leave. In the end, Xuedong King did not hesitate at all and directly agreed. This made Jian Wushuang feel very touched and grateful. A friend like Xuedong King was worth making a deep friendship with. Therefore, Jian Wushuang was not stingy and directly took out 100 million sacred elixirs. The extra 60 million sacred elixirs were his gratitude to Xuedong King for taking the risk for him. Looking at the interspatial ring in his hand, Xuedong King did not hesitate and said, "Okay, I'll take it." Xuedong King had seen Jian Wushuang slaughter many experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. Many true saint experts had died at Jian Wushuang's hands, and those true saint experts were all rich. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had gained a lot of wealth in addition to the reward for this mission. It could be said that he had made a lot of money, so he was not too unreasonable. Brother Heavenly Marquis, what are your plans next? Xuedong King looked at Jian Wushuang. I still have some private matters to deal with, Jian Wushuang said. In that case, let's split up again. I'll go to the Barbarian King team. Brother Heavenly Marquis, if you have any problems in the future, like this time, you can look for me at any time, Xuedong King said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. Soon they separated. Jian Wushuang was already planning his next move. I've already reached the Immortal Saint Realm, and I've just reached the rank 1 True Saint Realm. Logically speaking, my strength is still rising. As long as I have the opportunity, my strength can be greatly improved in a short time. Opportunity? In the secret realm, I promised the spirit of the secret realm that when I reached the Immortal Saint Realm, I would go to the secret realm again to accept the test left by the master of the secret realm. Now that my realm has reached, I should fulfill my promise, Jian Wushuang muttered. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light, but he had an idea in his heart. Then he directly set off. The endless territory was vast and boundless. The magic note Divine Kingdom occupied a total of 36 territories, which was already an extremely large divine kingdom. However, compared to the entire endless territory, it was only a drop in the ocean. The magic note Divine Kingdom was also very far away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang was now a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and he was also a Heaven-level member. His authority was not small, and the secret nests of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance were scattered all over the Divine Beginning world. There was also a secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance around the territory of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Through the spatial passage, Jian Wushuang appeared directly in the secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance around the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. After that, Jian Wushuang spent some sacred elixirs and obtained an intelligence report. This intelligence report was about the changes that had occurred in the years since Jian Wushuang left the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It had been nearly 300 years since Jian Wushuang left the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. These 300 years were a long time for Jian Wushuang in this life. In the vast void, Jian Wushuang flew while carefully reading the piece of information in his hand. As expected, after I left, a large number of mysterious experts arrived, including many principals masters. Looking at the information in his hand, Jian Wushuang secretly praised. In order to get Lang Rushuang back from the Supreme Emotion Valley, he had used his last trump card, the life level pressure, and even used the heaven-cleaving skill to kill several disciples of the Supreme Emotion Valley at the true saint level. However, because of this, he was targeted by the power of the will of heaven. If not for Taoist Xianxia's help in secret and the teleportation token he had obtained from the secret realm, he would not have been able to escape that day. After he left, a large number of top experts from the third heaven arrived. According to the information provided by the Heaven-Slaying Alliance, there were many experts who had arrived. They searched wantonly and almost turned the entire 9 realms of the Golden Crow upside down, especially the places that Jian Wushuang had been to and the Pil Sun sacred world where he was born. They searched the entire place several times. Moreover, anyone who had a certain connection with Jian Wushuang had been interrogated. But in the end, they still could not find any trace of Jian Wushuang. Not only the 9 realms of the Golden Crow but also a large number of surrounding territories had also been searched by those experts. However, after searching for more than 100 years without any news, those experts still left. By now, the 9 realms of the Golden Crow had calmed down again. Humph, although the information from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance says that all the experts have left, I'm afraid that it's not absolute. If I'm not wrong, although the experts have left on the surface, I'm afraid that there will still be a few experts left in the dark. However, they won't be searching as recklessly as before. Instead, they will go into hiding and wait for me to appear, Jian Wushuang said with a cold snort. He knew very well how terrifying his enemies were: the 3 great Saint Realm experts, the 4 great divine clans, and the 8 directions celestial sect. How terrifying were any of them? Any one of them was enough to shake the entire divine beginning realm. Such a super force had countless experts under their command, and their desire to kill him was even more intense. Even though they had searched for hundreds of years without finding any trace of him, these forces would never give up. They would definitely be willing to let some experts stay here and wait for tens of thousands of years. They would be willing to wait for hundreds of thousands of years. After all, these super forces should not lack experts. As for the will of the heavenly Tao, Jian Wushuang could not help looking up. Although the world seemed calm, Jian Wushuang knew that the power of the will of the heavenly Tao in this territory was much stronger than before. As expected, the will of the heavenly Tao had been keeping an eye on this territory. He had just stepped into this territory, so it was not a big deal. However, once he fought in this territory and revealed his powerful strength or revealed his trump card, the power of the will of the heavenly Tao would immediately be sensed. The experts hiding in this territory would definitely come to kill him at the first moment. Fortunately, My purpose of returning to the 9 realms of the Golden Crow is only for the opportunity in the secret realm. I don't want to have any friction or fight with others. At most, I just want to walk around. As long as I don't make a move, the power of the will of heaven and the experts hiding in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow will never know that I have returned. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, put on a strange smile. The 9 realms of the Golden Crow. A total of 9 realms. The heavenly curve world. Inside a towering hall in the middle of a densely packed group of buildings made up of countless palaces and pavilions. Supervisor Xiao, my palace master, said that this conflict is purely caused by the Sword Alliance taking the initiative to stir up trouble. That's why the Heavenly Void Alliance retaliated directly. Even if your people were all killed by the Heavenly Void Alliance, it's their own fault. However, Supervisor Xiao, you've now gathered an army at the border of our Heavenly Void world and made an aggressive stance. Why? Don't tell me that the Sword Alliance wants to start a war with our Heavenly Void Palace. A brown-haired elder with a childlike face stood in the hall. His expression was cold and filled with anger, and his words were loud and clear. Beside him were many experts from the Sword Alliance. They looked at the white-haired elder with a childlike face with ice-cold eyes, and some of them even carried killing intent. At the top of the great hall, a woman in purple armor stood there. This woman's appearance was extremely beautiful, but she was extremely cold and arrogant. Her eyes were cold and did not contain the slightest bit of sympathy. There was also an ice-cold and murderous aura between her brows. Yes, it was the murderous aura. This murderous aura was very strong, and everyone in the hall could clearly feel it. However, what was surprising was that the aura on this woman's body was not very strong. She had barely reached the level of a divine master. The people below were all great divine masters and above. However, it was this kind of woman that emitted the murderous aura, that caused many great divine master-level experts below to not even dare to raise their heads. Humph! Starting a war? So what if I want to start a war? The voice of the woman in purple armor was ice-cold. It reverberated throughout this palace. Go back and tell the Heavenly Void Palace Lord that I need him to give me an explanation for this matter. Also, I don't have that much patience. 3 months later, if he doesn't give me an explanation, the army of experts from my Sword Alliance will directly cross the border and enter the Heavenly Void Palace's territory. Supervisor Xiao, aren't you going too far? What kind of status does my palace master have? Why would he give you an explanation? That white-haired elder with a childlike face shouted in a low voice. Your palace master's status? Hee. Back then when my young master was around, your palace master didn't even dare to appear in front of my young master. With just a word from young master, that Heavenly Void Palace master didn't even dare to utter a fart. Now that my young master has left, he immediately jumped up. What a joke! What a joke! Listen carefully. Even if my young master is no longer around, the Sword Alliance is still not something that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can easily bully. At the very least, a mere Heavenly Void Palace master does not have the qualifications to do so. The purple-armored woman shouted in a low voice. You! The white-haired elder pointed at the purple-armored woman. His eyes were burning with anger, but it was not good for him to flare up. Blood lamp, chase this old thing out. If he dares to say any more nonsense on the way, kill him immediately and send his head back to the Heavenly Void Palace master. The purple-armored woman shouted. Yes. Divine Master Bloodlamp immediately walked up from the great hall and chased the white-haired elder out. The white-haired elder did not dare to get angry again. Afraid that Divine Master Bloodlamp would really kill him, the other experts in the hall reluctantly raised their heads to look at the purple-armored woman, but they quickly lowered their heads. Obviously, they were all in awe of the purple-armored woman. Although the scene just now happened in the hall, it was witnessed by one person from beginning to end. This person was Jian Wushuang. He was in the void not far from the buildings, and his soul power had already covered this place. XNR, this girl is really good. Jian Wushuang secretly praised her. The purple-armored woman in the hall with great majesty and killing intent was his maid, Xiao Tixin. He had killed Realm Lord Tianxu and occupied the Tianxu world. Then, he moved the Sword Alliance he created to this place. Under his tyrannical methods, the Heaven Curve world completely respected the Sword Alliance. After that, there was a huge change and he had no choice but to leave the Golden Crow 9 realms. When he left, he also sent a message to Xianxia, telling him a few things. After that, he did not know what happened. But now, it seemed that Xianxia's methods were extremely powerful. Even without his deterrence, he still managed the Sword Alliance and the entire Heaven Curve world in an orderly manner. The experts in the Heaven Curve world were filled with reverence toward him. The Sword Alliance was even more powerful because of the corpse puppet army that he had left behind. The only thing that it lacked was probably that there was no immortal saint in charge of it. However, the Golden Crow 9 realms had the rules set by Bone Emperor, so no one dared to violate them. It was very difficult for the forces of the other realms to invade the Heaven Curve world. For example, the Heaven Void Palace would be defeated this time. Xianxia is probably more skillful than Yin Sewer of the Red Stone Castle, Jian Wushuang thought. He only came here to understand the current situation of the Sword Alliance, but he did not show up and did not send a message to Xianxia and the others. Xianxia and the others did not know that he had returned. After all, when those mysterious experts from the third firmament had descended, some of those experts had looked for Xianxia and the experts under him. If nothing went wrong, Xianxia and the others must have been soul-searched by someone with powerful means and all their memories had been read. Only when they were certain that Xianxia and the others did not know his location, could those experts let them off. However, they probably let them go to catch a big fish. If Jian Wushuang's guess was correct, Xianxia and the Divine Masters under the Sword Alliance who were close to Jian Wushuang must have left a special mark on their bodies. Once Jian Wushuang appeared in front of them, the mark would be triggered. The experts hiding in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow would immediately detect him and come to kill him as soon as possible. Therefore, it was impossible for Jian Wushuang to contact Xianxia and the others, let alone appear in front of them. After having a certain understanding of the Sword Alliance, Jian Wushuang returned to the Pill Sun Sacred World. The Pill Sun Sacred World did not change much. Jian Wushuang only took a look at Crimson Rock Castle, and then he went straight to the Secret Realm. The entrance to the Secret Realm was here. It was not Jian Wushuang's first time here, so he was naturally familiar with it. Soon, he opened the passage of the Secret Realm and entered the Secret Realm. Entering the Secret Realm and breaking through the obstacles in front of him, Jian Wushuang arrived at the true core of the Secret Realm in less than 15 minutes. At the same time, he saw the spirit of the Secret Realm again. Elder Gu. Jian Wushuang looked at the plain-clothed elder in front of him with a humble expression. You're here. Elder Gu also looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile on his face. You must have just become an immortal saint, right? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. According to what I said, I came to the Secret Realm as soon as I became an immortal saint. I just don't know if I have a chance to get the opportunity left by the Master of the Secret Realm. The opportunity left by Master can only be obtained by completely passing the test set by him. The minimum threshold of this test is the Immortal Saint. You've just barely met the requirement to accept the test. As for whether you can pass it, I don't know, Elder Gu said. Elder Gu admired Jian Wushuang very much. Back then, Jian Wushuang had shown extraordinary skills and talent in the Secret Realm. Some of his skills even made Elder Gu astonished. For example, Jian Wushuang's soul had been killed 6 or 7 times in a space in order to get the corpse puppet army to accept the test. In the end, he was still alive and well. Elder Gu knew that Jian Wushuang was extraordinary and had great secrets. Therefore, he hoped that Jian Wushuang could pass the test left by his master and inherit his master's legacy. However, whether he could really succeed or not, it depended on Jian Wushuang's ability. How about this? Elder Gu waved his hand. Whoosh! A figure suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. It was a bald man who was more than 2 meters tall and as strong as a hill. This bald man was lifeless. He was obviously a corpse puppet, but his aura was very impressive. He had reached the level of a 3rd-level true saint. Before you really go to the master's test, you should fight with this corpse puppet. If you can't defeat it, you should cultivate for a while before coming back, said Elder Gu. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and immediately looked at the corpse puppet. "Let's do it," Elder Gu said indifferently. As soon as the corpse puppet next to him received his order, it instantly turned into a flowing light and flashed out. A golden axe appeared in the corpse puppet's hand. The corpse puppet held the axe with both hands at the same time. Whoosh! A streak of golden light flashed out, which was extremely majestic and domineering. It whistled and slashed toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hands immediately. Without any fancy moves, the blade of the sword directly smashed toward the golden light with astonishing divine power. Clang! A low sound of metal colliding rang out, and the golden light dimmed. Under the pressure of Jian Wushuang's terrifying power, the golden axe in the corpse puppet's hand was directly thrown away, and its entire body was instantly pushed back. In just one exchange, the corpse puppet, which had reached the level of a rank 3 true saint, had been completely defeated. "You defeated this corpse puppet cleanly." Elder Gu nodded slightly, but he frowned slightly. "Elder Gu, what do you think?" Jian Wushuang looked over. "Your strength is indeed good, but if I'm not wrong, the reason why you were able to defeat this corpse puppet so easily was because of your divine power, which is much stronger than that of an ordinary rank 3 true saint. In other words, your strength is only strong, but in other aspects, although it's very good, it's not ridiculously strong," Elder Gu said. Jian Wushuang directly admitted this. Indeed, his strength was mainly reflected in his strength and power. Apart from his strength and power, his other aspects were similar to those of the top geniuses in the divine beginning world. "It's impossible to pass the test left by Master if you only have strong strength and power," Elder Gu said in a deep voice. "The test Master left behind is very special. In the test, no matter how strong your power is, it's useless. Master's test is purely based on your comprehension of the principles and the Tao. Not to mention your power, even if you know many secret arts and special techniques, you won't be able to use them during the test. Therefore, the chances of you succeeding in the test left by Master are very low." "What?" Jian Wushuang's expression changed slightly. It was purely a test of comprehension of principles and Tao. Power was useless? After all, he had just reached the immortal saint realm and his strength was still in the explosive stage. His comprehension of principles and Tao could be greatly improved at this level. In other words, his strength had not reached the limit of this level. Under such circumstances, it was obviously very disadvantageous for him to pass the test left by the Master of the Secret Realm. It is indeed very unlikely for you to pass the test left by Master. However, Master has already set a rule that the same cultivator can challenge the test 3 times. Since you are here today, you can try it first. Even if you fail, you will at least have a certain understanding of the test and have a good idea of it. In the future, when you come to challenge me for the second time, you will be more confident," Elder Gu said. "I see." Jian Wushuang understood. "In that case, I'll give it a try today." There was a hint of anticipation in Jian Wushuang's eyes. He really wanted to know what kind of test the owner of this secret realm, a principal master who could open a great secret realm, had left behind. Whoosh! A burst of majestic divine power condensed in the void in front of Jian Wushuang, and in the blink of an eye, it formed a dark tunnel. "Enter through this passage and you'll be in the trial ground. I'll tell you the content of the trial when you get there," Elder Gu said. Jian Wushuang nodded. He took a look at the dark passage in front of him and took a deep breath. Without much hesitation, he stepped into the passage. Whoosh! With a flash of light, Jian Wushuang appeared in a vast world. In the center of this world stood a towering mountain that was hundreds of thousands of feet tall. This mountain gave Jian Wushuang a feeling of vastness and even a sense of fear. "Little guy, the mountain you see now is called D Mountain. Master once moved to this secret realm by great means." Elder Gu's voice came from the void, and a faint figure appeared there. "D Mountain?" Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and looked at the huge mountain in front of him. He had noticed that D Mountain was very different from an ordinary mountain at first glance. "D Mountain is very special." Elder Gu's leisurely voice came from the void next to him. "This D Mountain is completely covered by a special restriction. Cultivators, no matter who steps on the D Mountain, will immediately be restricted by the restriction. The power they can use is at most at the level of an ordinary first-level true saint. Even if your realm has already surpassed that of a first-level true saint, or if you have secret techniques that can increase the power of your divine power or special techniques, once you reach the D mountain, these secret techniques will not be able to be used. On D mountain, the only things you can use are the principles and Tao, as well as the various unique skills you created. D mountain is divided into 3 levels, namely the foot of the mountainside, and the mountaintop. Each level has 3 gatekeepers. What you need to do is to start from the foot of the mountain, then climb to the mountaintop and reach the top. That's enough. After hearing Elder Gu's words, Jian Wushuang moved. There are gatekeepers at the foot of the mountainside, and the top of the mountain. Does this mean that I will experience 3 trials in total? And it seems that these 3 trials will become more difficult as time goes on. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Let's begin. After Elder Gu finished speaking, the rest was left to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and appeared at the foot of the mountain. As soon as he arrived, he saw 3 figures standing quietly at the foot of the mountain. They were a black-clothed woman, a cold-looking elder, and a middle-aged man with red hair. Their expressions were cold and emotionless. Is this my opponent at the foot of the mountain? Jian Wushuang's eyes focused. Challenger, defeat us and you can go to the mountainside. The red-haired middle-aged man said coldly. As soon as he said this, the red-haired middle-aged man immediately moved. He rushed toward Jian Wushuang like a ball of hot flame. The red-haired middle-aged man wore a pair of red fists and his body was full of murderous aura. This murderous aura immediately swept toward Jian Wushuang. At the same time, the black-clothed woman and the cold-faced elder also made corresponding movements. The black-clothed woman directly merged into the surrounding void and completely disappeared. As for the cold-faced elder, a strange light flashed in his eyes. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The world in front of Jian Wushuang completely changed. He was originally taking the test at the foot of D Mountain, but in the blink of an eye, he found himself in a dark void. No, it was not a dark void. To be more precise, it was a dark prison. The dark prison had completely imprisoned him. There were even huge chains that completely bound him, making him unable to move. There were people around him who held knives and swords and wanted to cut his flesh. Illusion. Jian Wushuang's face was cold. Break! His body only shook for a moment, and a terrifying willpower burst out. The surrounding dark space immediately collapsed. You actually broke my illusion in an instant? The cold elder looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise, and then snorted coldly. He pointed his right hand from afar, and 6 sharp dark spikes turned into 6 pitch-black beams of light, piercing through the void and shooting toward Jian Wushuang's head. Each of the 6 dark spikes contained a strong impact power. Before the 6 dark spikes appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, the red-haired middle-aged man's fist had already arrived. His fist was hot and violent, like a raging flame, directly covering Jian Wushuang. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and suddenly brandished his Blood Mountain sword. His divine power exploded the moment he brandished it, but at the same time, his face darkened. As expected, no matter how much I use my divine power, the power I can release is only at the level of a rank 1 true saint. I can't use any means to amplify the power. Even the boundless sword tree, which is 6,600 meters tall, can't amplify the power of my swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang frowned. However, he could not use all his strength. The 3 people guarding at the foot of the mountain could only activate the power of a rank 1 true saint. Under the same power, Jian Wushuang was not afraid of them at all. Die! Jian Wushuang suddenly let out a low shout, and a terrible evil aura suddenly burst out. Space-time sword art, Evil Xiang. It was the most terrifying move that Jian Wushuang had created. Roar! A deep, angry roar suddenly came from the heaven and earth. The shocking sword light that Jian Wushuang waved turned into a complete and huge ancient exotic beast in the blink of an eye, and fiercely smashed into the red-haired middle-aged man's fist. Crack! The sound of bones cracking was heard. The red-haired, middle-aged man let out a shrill scream, and his body was sent flying heavily. Suddenly, a cold black light appeared behind Jian Wushuang without any warning. The black light was cold, dazzling, and full of killing intent. However, Jian Wushuang only slightly moved his body, and silver light burst out. Swish! The dark dagger cut through the void, but it did not have the time to cut through the corner of Jian Wushuang's clothes. Jian Wushuang had already appeared beside the black-clothed woman. A sword light was extremely fast and directly slashed at the black-clothed woman. It was much faster and more violent than when the black-clothed woman stabbed out with the dagger. Whoosh! The sword light directly passed through the divine body of the black-clothed woman. Then Jian Wushuang's body burst forth again. He easily dodged the 6 dark spikes and chopped off the cold elder's head. In just a moment, 2 of the 3 people who surrounded Jian Wushuang were killed and 1 was injured. Jian Wushuang naturally passed the test at the foot of the mountain. After passing the test, Jian Wushuang immediately went to the mountainside. As for the black-clothed woman and the cold-faced elder, their divine bodies had recovered. In the void not far from D Mountain, the elder of the secret realm, Spirit Valley, had been standing there quietly watching. He had witnessed everything that had happened at the foot of the mountain. When he saw that Jian Wushuang had easily defeated the 3 people at the foot of the mountain, he could not help nodding slightly. His comprehension of the space-time principle is not bad. He has reached the limit of the 2nd stage, which is considered good among rank 3 true saints. The swordsmanship he created is at the peak of rank 3. This kind of comprehension, it should not be difficult to pass the tests at the foot of the mountain or at the mountainside. What is difficult is the mountaintop. Elder Gu knew very well that the 3 tests of D Mountain were more and more difficult, especially the trial on the mountaintop, which was the most difficult of the 3 trials. In the primordial divine world, ordinary geniuses could not pass the trial on the mountaintop. Only the top super geniuses could. As for Jian Wushuang, Elder Gu did not think that Jian Wushuang could pass the trial on the mountaintop. D Mountain, on the mountainside. There were also 3 gatekeepers on the mountainside, just like at the foot of the mountain. One of them was good at close combat, and their attacks were tyrannical. The other was good at speed, and good at sneak attacks and assassinations. The last person knew how to use soul attacks, and his soul techniques were incomparably powerful. The difference was that the 3 gatekeepers on the mountainside were much more powerful than the 3 at the foot of the mountain. Get lost! Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. He slashed out his blood mountain sword and performed the evil Xiang move. The terrifying sword light collided with the sledgehammer wielded by a strong young man. Although he had the upper hand, the strong young man was not defeated by him. He was not completely crushed. Next to him, an evil-looking young man slashed at Jian Wushuang's head again and again. The last gatekeeper, who was not far away, used his soul attack to affect Jian Wushuang. The 3 of them worked well together, which put a lot of pressure on Jian Wushuang. However, at this moment Jian Wushuang finally burst out. His silver light movement suddenly burst out, and his speed completely surpassed the fastest of the 3. He directly appeared in front of the gatekeeper who had used soul attack. Then he used Star Dream, which was so fast, the gatekeeper did not have time to react and was killed on the spot. After one of the 3 was killed, the other 2 obviously could not defeat Jian Wushuang, so they were soon defeated by Jian Wushuang one by one. They passed the mountainside. Finally, Jian Wushuang arrived at the top of D Mountain. There were also 3 gatekeepers on the mountaintop. They were a stocky elder and 2 women, 1 black and 1 white. Master left D Mountain behind and set 3 tests. You passed the 2 tests at the foot and the mountainside. This proves that your talent is not weak. Even in the vast divine beginning world, you can be considered a first-class genius. But that's it, the stocky elder said. You'll never pass the test of the 3 of us, the white-robed woman also said. How would I know if I don't try? Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly. Soon, he fought with the 3 gatekeepers. After the real battle, Jian Wushuang understood why Elder Gu had said that the probability of him passing the test was very low. It was because the test on the mountaintop was too difficult. Although the three gatekeepers on the mountaintop had also displayed the power of a rank 1 true saint, each of them had reached the peak of a rank 3 true saint in terms of their comprehension of the rules and Tao. Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the space-time principles and sword principle was only at the peak of a rank 3 true saint. Any one of the three could fight him head-on, and it was hard to predict who would win. But now it was a 3-on-1 fight. The three of them were working well together. Under such circumstances, how could he be a match for them? Jian Wushuang held on for a while, but he was defeated in the end. As soon as he was defeated, Jian Wushuang was immediately sent out of D Mountain. I failed. Jian Wushuang returned to the hall with a sigh. Little guy, how do you feel? Elder Gu looked at him with interest. Too weak. Any one of the three gatekeepers on the top of the mountain is equal to me. If the three of them work together, I'm no match for them, Jian Wushuang said. I've already said that it's very unlikely for you to pass the test left by Master. It's true, but don't take it too seriously. I can see that you've just reached the Immortal Saint level, and your strength is still in an explosive stage. You still have a lot of room to improve your strength at the level of a rank 1 true saint. Judging from your fight with the three gatekeepers on the top of D Mountain, you are not too far away from passing the test. As long as you can make great progress in the future, you should be able to pass it. Elder Gu smiled and said, Indeed. Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly. It was true that he could not pass D Mountain's test, but he was not too far away from passing the test. He was close to passing it. With such a small gap, as long as he made some progress in his strength, he should be able to pass it. Now, under the situation where I can't fully utilize my strength, I can't deal with the joint attack of the three gatekeepers. If I want to defeat the three of them, I can only make a big breakthrough in the rules or sword principle. Among the rules and sword principle, his comprehension of reincarnation principles was even lower than the space-time principles. Even if he improved to the same level as the space-time principles, the increase in his battle strength was minimal. He was afraid that he would still be unable to pass the test on the top of the mountain. As for the sword principle, although his immeasurable sword tree was already 6,600 feet tall, his understanding of the sword principle was not very high. However, it was very difficult to improve the sword principle. In a short time, Jian Wushuang could not make great progress in his sword principle. The only thing he could improve now was the space-time principle. Space-time principle, right? Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly lit up. Then he flipped his hand and took out a golden stone the size of an infant's fist. Looking at the golden stone, Jian Wushuang's eyes shone with a strange light. This golden stone was the strange stone that contained the space-time divine principle. Jian Wushuang had stepped into the space-time temple from this golden stone and learned the heaven-designated skill. However, the heaven-designated skill was only one of the first moves of the space-time divine principle. Jian Wushuang knew that there were two moves of the space-time divine principle contained in this golden stone alone. However, because his comprehension of the space-time principles was too low, he was not qualified to learn the second move. Now, his comprehension of the space-time rules had greatly improved. Reaching the limit of the second stage, he could try to learn the second move of the space-time divine skill. Most importantly, when Jian Wushuang was comprehending the first move of the space-time divine skill, the heaven-designated skill, his comprehension of the space-time principle had also greatly improved. Now, his comprehension of the space-time principle had reached the limit of the second stage. He could use the second move of the space-time divine skill to improve his comprehension of the space-time principles so that his comprehension of the space-time principles could reach the third stage. Once his comprehension of the space-time principles reached the third stage, he would have the confidence to pass the test on the top of D Mountain. Thinking of this, the light in his eyes grew brighter. Elder Gu, I want a place where I can cultivate and comprehend in peace, Jian Wushuang said. Sure. This secret realm is very big, and there is no other cultivator besides you. I can arrange a place for you to ensure that no one will disturb you, Elder Gu said. But I have to remind you that any cultivator only has 3 chances to enter D Mountain. You've already used it once before, and there are only 2 chances left. You must seize these 2 chances. You must be at least 70 to 80% sure that you can go again. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded. Soon, Elder Gu arranged a separate dark void for Jian Wushuang. The dark void was boundless. Jian Wushuang sat alone with his legs crossed. In front of him was a golden stone the size of a baby's fist. Let's begin. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang sank his consciousness into the golden stone. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The scene immediately began to change. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Waves of terrifying space-time storms filled every corner of the world. The killing power contained in these space-time storms was ridiculously strong. Jian Wushuang even suspected that even a principal's master would be torn into pieces by this space-time storm, let alone a true saint. He reckoned that he would be torn into pieces by this space-time storm. In many places in the space-time storm, space-time seemed to have completely frozen and stopped. Pieces of space continued to break and regenerate. In the center of this space-time storm, there was an extremely tall golden palace door. This palace door was magnificent and majestic, but the inside of the palace door was mysterious. What he could sense was still the vast and boundless power of space-time. It was as if it led to another space-time. Jian Wushuang was standing under the golden palace gate. Here I am again. Seeing the space-time palace gate in front of him, Jian Wushuang's heart was still filled with many waves. The words that he had heard before were still echoing in his ears. Cross the space-time gate, enter my space-time palace, and be a member of my divine palace. Jian Wushuang had stepped through the time-space palace gate before he was able to comprehend the first move of the time-space divine skill, the heaven-designated skill. But now, taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang stepped into the palace gate again without any hesitation. As soon as he entered the palace gate, he came to a vast and boundless void. In the void, a tall figure stood there. The tall figure was 3 meters tall and wore a simple but clean white robe. His figure was obscure and his face could not be seen. He stood in the middle of the void with his hands behind his back. It's him again. Jian Wushuang, you are not unfamiliar with this tall figure. When he was comprehending the heaven-designated skill, he saw the tall figure personally use the heaven-designated skill to imprison many experts, causing them to be stuck in time and space for a long time and unable to recover. If Jian Wushuang was right, the tall figure was probably the creator of the time and space divine skill, the temporal temple master. Now, Jian Wushuang saw the tall figure again, standing in front of a star. It was a huge star that was much larger than the magic note divine kingdom. Such a star was simply a colossus. Jian Wushuang also sensed the aura of countless cultivators in the star. They were all very powerful, including many immortal saints. Jian Wushuang even faintly sensed the aura of the principal's master. What is he going to do? As a bystander, Jian Wushuang stared at the tall figure quietly. Finally, the tall figure moved. He still did not move much. He just slowly extended his right hand and pointed in the direction of the giant star. Yes, it was the simplest finger. It was exactly the same as when he used the heaven-designated skill. However, under this finger, an obscure power of space-time rules suddenly swept out. In front of them, on the giant star, a terrifying space-time storm appeared out of thin air. The space-time storm completely covered the entire star, and a large number of space-time blades crazily rampaged and strangled everything. Then, the giant star, including the countless cultivators on the star, began to be annihilated at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was annihilated, completely annihilated. Whether it was the giant star, the cultivators in the star, or the few hidden principles masters that Jian Wushuang sensed, there was no room for struggle. In the blink of an eye, they were all annihilated. The giant star completely disappeared, and the world returned to peace as if nothing had happened. Jian Wushuang was completely stunned. After a while, a vast amount of information flooded into his mind. The second move of the space-time divine art. One-finger void annihilation. One-finger void annihilation. Space-time annihilation. Jian Wushuang was still standing in the void, but his body was faintly trembling. It was too terrifying. The scene just now was too terrifying. It should be known that the giant star was much larger than a magic note divine kingdom. Such a huge star, the tall figure only needed one finger to completely annihilate it. Such a terrifying method was simply unbelievable. Spacetime annihilation. Yes, the tall figure just used the spacetime annihilation which can be used in the third stage of the spacetime principles. Jian Wushuang was still recalling the scene just now. The spacetime storm appeared and annihilated everything in the world, and the method was obviously spacetime annihilation. According to Jian Wushuang's understanding of the spacetime principles, each level of the spacetime principles had a new ability. The first level of the spacetime principles could condense a spacetime illusion body. The second level could control the spacetime blade. The third level allowed one to perform the spacetime annihilation. The fourth level allowed one to perform teleportation. Jian Wushuang had not yet reached the third level of the spacetime annihilation, but he had clearly used the spacetime annihilation with his finger earlier. He had used the spacetime annihilation in a special way to its fullest and most perfect effect. This move was terrifying in terms of its destructive power alone. It's just right that my spacetime principles has advanced one step further, which is to control the spacetime annihilation move, and the one-finger void annihilation move is to perfectly utilize the spacetime annihilation move. I can completely comprehend this move while controlling the spacetime annihilation, and I can easily step into the third level of the spacetime principles. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining. In the dark void, Jian Wushuang was very excited. With the gold-splitting secret manual in hand, I have already dissected the first 3 stages of the spacetime principles in great detail. It's still very helpful to me. With the 3 heaven-sealing scrolls in hand, I can improve my comprehension speed by many times. Now, I can comprehend the spacetime annihilation from the spacetime annihilation skill of one finger. With so many cultivation resources, it won't take an ordinary person long to make a breakthrough. As for me, let's see how long it will take. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with anticipation. Then he began to meditate carefully. Time began to pass slowly. 1 day, 1 month, 1 year. After only 1 year, Jian Wushuang's eyes were still open in the dark void. He stared at the void in front of him. With a move of his consciousness, the power of the spacetime rule suddenly burst out. Whoosh, a large amount of the power of the spacetime principles condensed in the void, and in the blink of an eye, it had formed countless spacetime blades. Each of these spacetime blades was extremely powerful and contained an astonishing killing power. However, under Jian Wushuang's control, the spacetime blades immediately began to evolve. Boom! A spacetime storm rose. The spacetime storm cut through the void like a blade, and then it began to destroy. In the blink of an eye, all the matter in that small piece of void had been completely destroyed, leaving no trace. The third stage of the spacetime principles, spacetime destruction, is done. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. Just as he had expected, he had the golden splitting secret manual which perfectly dissected the first 3 stages of the spacetime principles, and he also had 3 heaven-sealing scrolls which could speed up his comprehension of the spacetime principle. Finally, there was the spacetime annihilation finger skill which could be used as a reference. With these 3 great opportunities in front of him, it provided him with the fastest way. His comprehension of the spacetime principle had already reached the limit of the second stage and was only 1 step away from the third stage. But now, this 1 step was directly crossed in the short span of a year. In the third stage of the spacetime principles, the spacetime annihilation had been controlled, which meant that Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the rule had completely entered a new level. Especially in the use of the spacetime principles, it would be much stronger than before. Let's try it first. Jian Wushuang stood up and looked at the endless dark void in front of him. In the next moment, his body suddenly moved. Whoosh! His body instantly burst out, but he had already appeared at the end of the dark void and then returned to his original place. This process had been completed in a flash. My speed is so much faster than before? Jian Wushuang muttered. After his comprehension of the spacetime principle was greatly improved, he could control the power of the spacetime principle more easily. The spacetime around him had less influence on him, so his speed naturally increased. Just now, Jian Wushuang had just made a simple move, but his speed was definitely several times faster than before he broke through. I haven't used my movement skill just now. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, and then his body moved again. This time, he directly used the silver light movement skill. Swish, 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 swish. One after another, silver phantoms shuttled back and forth in the dark void. Their figures were so ghostly that no one could catch a trace of them. Let alone an ordinary person, even a genuine rank 3 true saint would not be able to catch a trace of Jian Wushuang here. He was afraid that he would not be able to catch a glimpse of Jian Wushuang's actual figure. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang's figure once again returned to the distance. When I use the silver light movement technique, my speed should be about 6 times faster than before. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Only 6 times? Jian Wushuang frowned. With a simple sweep, he found that his speed had not only increased by 6 times, but should have increased by 7 times or even 8 times. But now, when he used the movement technique, his speed had only increased by 6 times. This meant, my movement technique is not perfect enough. There is still a lot of room for improvement, Jian Wushuang said. Movement technique was different from an absolute art. An absolute art was created by combining the rule and sword principle. But movement technique relied purely on the rule. When Jian Wushuang created the silver light movement technique, his comprehension of the spacetime principle was only at the limit of the 2nd stage. But now, his comprehension of the spacetime principles had reached the 3rd stage and reached a new level. At this time, he was looking at the silver light movement technique, which had many shortcomings and could be improved. No rush. Let's test the power of the sword skill first. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and then took out his Blood Mountain sword. In the dark void, Jian Wushuang began to display his sword skill. First, he simply used the power of spacetime principles to display his swordsmanship, feeling the changes in the speed and power of his swordsmanship. Then, he displayed the 2 ultimate skills, Evil Xiang and Star Dream, one by one. The result was obvious. As he improved the spacetime principles, his swordsmanship improved greatly in both speed and power. For example, in terms of power, his Evil Xiang should be 3 times more powerful than before. Do not underestimate the power of 3 times because it was just an absolute art. If Jian Wushuang used all his divine power and all kinds of techniques at the same time, his overall strength would be greatly improved. As for Star Dream, it did not focus on power, so it would not be much stronger. However, its speed was greatly increased, becoming faster and faster. At the same time, the tearing and cutting ability of the sword edge had also increased by a large margin. In general, Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship had also improved to a new level. In addition, after he had reached the 3rd stage of comprehending the spacetime principles and had mastered the spacetime annihilation, he could barely perform the 2nd move of the spacetime divine skill, the one-finger void annihilation skill. I wonder how powerful the one-finger void annihilation skill will be? Jian Wushuang was full of expectation. He took a deep breath, looked at the void in front of him, and then slowly raised his right hand. Just like the tall figure in the golden stone, he slowly raised his right hand and pointed at the void in front of him. This finger seemed ordinary, but the moment it was pointed out, the power of spacetime principles burst out. Rumble, a majestic spacetime storm appeared out of thin air. Walala, the spacetime storm destroyed everything. Although the spacetime storm was not as big as the giant figure in the golden stone picture, it still existed in a vast void, and all the materials in that void were destroyed. All the matter in that void had been annihilated. So powerful! Looking at the completely annihilated void in front of him, Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. He could feel that the power of his fingerspace annihilating skill should be more than 100 times stronger than the spacetime annihilation he controlled. In other words, he could control the spacetime annihilation only after he had comprehended the spacetime rules to the 3rd stage, but after the special application of the spacetime divine skill, it was 100 times more powerful. It was too terrifying. I can feel that even if I use my divine power to perform this move, I can easily crush a rank 3 true saint and completely annihilate him. Even his immortal body is useless. Jian Wushuang was shocked. The annihilation of time and space was to completely annihilate an area of time and space. All matter was completely annihilated, including divine power. For an expert of the true saint realm, even if his divine body was destroyed, his divine power could still be regenerated when scattered around. However, this finger annihilation of space could completely annihilate the divine power of this area of time and space. Naturally, it could destroy this true saint directly. This is only the strength of my divine power. If I use many secret skills, the power of my divine power will soar again. Even a rank 4 true saint would not be able to resist this move. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. The void annihilation technique was too powerful. Jian Wushuang was also shocked. He had only grasped the first step of this technique, and his comprehension of the space-time principles had just reached the third stage. In the future, his comprehension of the space-time principles could continue to improve. He would become more and more familiar with this technique, and when he used it, it would be more powerful. Space-time divine skill, one-finger heaven-designated skill, and now one-finger void annihilation technique. I wonder what kind of supreme existence the space-time temple master who created this divine skill is. Jian Wushuang secretly praised. With the space-annihilating finger skill, he had another trump card in his hand, or even a killer move. Phew! Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang gradually calmed down. Now, my comprehension of the space-time principles has improved so much that it has greatly improved my speed and swordsmanship. As for the space-annihilating finger skill, although it is not useful when I go to D Mountain, even without the space-annihilating finger skill, I should have an 80% chance of passing through D Mountain now. If I slightly improve the silver light movement skill that I created so that it can perfectly combine with my speed, then I have a 90% chance of passing through it. Jian Wushuang was quite excited. Immediately, in this dark space, Jian Wushuang began to comprehend and improve his movement skill again. In the dark space, streaks of silver light constantly flickered. This was Jian Wushuang constantly trying to perform his movement skill. While performing it, he constantly discovered his shortcomings and then improved them. With his talent and comprehension of the space-time principles, it was very easy for him to improve his movement technique. It only took him 10 days. After 10 days, Jian Wushuang's silver light movement technique had been improved. Of course, this improvement was only from Jian Wushuang's current point of view. But if his comprehension of the space-time principles improved to a new level in the future, his view of his movement technique would be different. My movement skills have improved. I'm 90% sure that I can pass the D Mountain. I can go now. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and immediately shouted, Elder Gu! A moment later, Jian Wushuang arrived in front of Elder Gu. Elder Gu, I want to challenge the D Mountain again, Jian Wushuang said directly. Challenge again? It's only been a year. Elder Gu frowned slightly. He had warned Jian Wushuang that anyone who tried to challenge D Mountain would only have 3 chances. Jian Wushuang had already used it once, so there were only 2 chances left. For this reason, Elder Gu had specifically reminded Jian Wushuang to be as cautious as possible in the next 2 chances and to try again when he was sure. But now, it had only been a year since he first tried to challenge D Mountain. He came here after a year? Could it be that he had made great progress in this 1 year? Little guy, how confident are you? Elder Gu tried to ask. 70 to 80%, Jian Wushuang said. He was being humble. Although he was 90% confident, he only said 70 to 80%. 70 to 80% I can try. A smile appeared on Elder Gu's face again. Then he waved his hand, and the tunnel leading to D Mountain appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again. Go in, Elder Gu said. Jian Wushuang also stepped into the tunnel. D Mountain was tall and majestic, which was extremely shocking. Although Jian Wushuang had reached the top of the mountain last time, he still had to start from the foot of the mountain this time. Chi! 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 The 3 gatekeepers at the foot of the mountain could not hinder Jian Wushuang at all. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang had reached the top of D Mountain again. On the top of the mountain, the burly elder and the 2 women, one black and one white, were still standing there, looking at Jian Wushuang calmly. You're here again, the black-clothed woman said. It's only been a year since you came here last time. Although Master gave you 3 chances, you didn't take this test seriously. How much progress can you make in just a year? How can you overcome the obstacles of the 3 people? We'll know if we can. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Oh, you're very confident? Then the three of us will crush your confidence now. The stocky elder said in a deep voice. Do it! Whoosh! The stocky elder and the black-clothed woman moved at the same time. As for the white-robed woman, a warm white light emerged from her body and shone toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's consciousness was also affected by the warm white light, but he quickly came back to his senses. As soon as he regained consciousness, he saw the black-robed woman appear behind him. At the same time, a cold blood-red saber light cut toward Jian Wushuang's head from behind. The angle was tricky, and the speed was also very fast. If Jian Wushuang had not broken through the comprehension of the space-time principle before, he would have been a little embarrassed in the face of this saber light. But now,